close there. Hanging out in the way. Tap me on the back because I can't hear that. That's all right.
Let me knock your computer off.
Okay, this is Bobby with Macon Media. Thank you all for joining me. The meeting will be starting shortly.
Welcome to the meeting tonight. This is the regular meeting on May the 21st. say welcome to everybody. And we'll start, we won't be wasting your time. We'll start with, I have to work on my glasses. Mr. Ray Love, is that you down there?
It's me. Mr. Chairman, we would actually have to come in open session. I think y'all are doing a reconvening, whereas we are not. So at this time, I formally declare the Macon County Board of Education to be in a formal meeting and able to conduct any business that the board deems necessary to conduct the business for our educational system as of today. Also, want to announce we will not be having a public comment period as a work session meeting that we're having. As such, we will not be open the floor for public comment. We're here strictly to deal with the items that will be bringing before the board.
Thank you, sir. Mr. County Manager Derek Roll, your show.
Thank you, Mr. Shields and Chairman Breedlove. We're here tonight, as we know, with the joint meeting of the Macon County Board of Commissioners and Board of Education. And I think as we get started, we first need to discuss the capital priorities that these boards are working towards. That it has been a big part of the discussion of the previous 3 years as we've been working through planning at various stages of each of these projects. And I made mention at the fiscal year 25 budget presentation last week that the fiscal year 25 budget was the budget of a lifetime because it had taken over a decade to build the financial position that accompanied the fiscal year 25 budget. And at the same time, the fiscal year 25 budget could potentially be the budget that impacted generations to come. Our financial position that we enjoy today has faced much criticism over the years. As our financial position has improved, fund balance growth has often been criticized. We have managed this money properly. We have spent this money responsibly and with purpose. We've managed it through the good times, through the bad times. And you don't even have to go back a decade. Just in the past 5 years alone, the Macon County Board of Commissioners and the Macon County Board of Education working together have funded $26.2 million in capital improvements to our Macon County school system. That's outside of annual funding that comes in the budget. That's outside of everything else that these boards have been able to work to accomplish. So we have moved forward during this time, but we have been able to save our money. We have been able to build a fund balance, and that fund balance will play a key role here today in our ability. We're looking at fiscal year 25 as an opportunity to be able to make approximately $150 million in capital improvements here in Macon County because of this financial position. And $146.2 million of this $150 million is attributable to the Franklin High School project and the Highland School project, which again, we have been planning. We've been in discussions for 3 years. We've spent approximately $4.1 million in architect fees and planning fees, and up to this point in the Franklin High School project, we have spent approximately $200,000 in architect fees and planning fees on the Highlands project up to this point. And we're now here today at a position to where we can talk about being able to move forward with these projects. And we're going to need to take some action tonight to continue moving these projects forward if we intend to stay on the timeline that we have set out to establish. And as you'll recall, this timeline is something that has kind of evolved. And months ago, on both projects, we decided to go the CM at risk delivery method. So that allowed our architect to pair up with these building contractors and really get into the numbers and really get into the plans and establish what they feel to be ceilings for each of these projects. So now we have ceilings for each of these projects that our architects, along with these building contractors, are comfortable will not exceed that. So that's something that we have been waiting for, is to get those finite numbers. We also, with respect to the project schedules, we have discussed, I think Emily has hit on it recently, that in order to stay on schedule with these projects, which, assuming that we break ground on a new Franklin High School in October, we are going to have to continue taking these steps and do summer work at both the Franklin High School project and the Highland School project in order to keep these projects on schedule. And we have tried to track them simultaneously throughout this project. And so we're at the point here today where it is that time, again, that we have planned for and that our financial position has left us well prepared for. Back in February, if you'll recall, Mitch brought this to us. We discussed at that time, the county has informally established 25% for the amount of fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, as a minimum threshold for us to retain in fund balance. The county, in February, to make all this work, we had intended on financing a portion, and along with that, transferring $20 million from the general fund balance into the capital reserve fund, which is the mechanism that funds all these projects that we will see here in a second. Excuse me for that, I didn't realize I could do that loud. On into 24, we have had some changes in both revenues and on the expenditure side as well. One thing is we're expecting to again add to fund balance to end fiscal year 24. And so that, again, is that positive growth that we've been seeing in fund balance result of revenues exceeding expenditures, which is a good thing and has gotten us to where we are today. So with that being said, that was very positive on the revenue side. At the same time, there's been some changes on the expenditure side as well. Again, here in February, if you look, we had discussed a $20 million appropriation from fund balance would still leave the county at a fund balance of 40%, which is exceptional. It is a standout not only in the western region, but across the state of North Carolina, especially for a county this size. So with respect to expenditures, the change we saw there was essentially each of the projects increased, and the about $13.2 million together was the total project increase. We had a $10.6 million increase on the Franklin High School project from the time in February until we brought on the CM at risk. They had a chance to pair up with the architect and get these new numbers. So that $10 million increase on the Franklin High School project brings that to $137.6 million. So that combined with the Highland School project, the same thing. Carol Daniel was working with LS3P. They are the CM at risk on the Franklin High School project. Vinoy is the CM at risk working with LS3P on the Highlands project. So when the revised Highlands project numbers came back, they were about $2.5 million over what we had discussed in February. And we have the architects and the contractors here that are happy to discuss that as we move forward. But with this $13.2 million increase, while we're increasing $13.2 million in total expenditures, we're only going to be borrowing $5.5 million more as we're going to finance the Highlands project in its entirety from the fund balance revenues that come in the form of that $20 million fund balance transfer. That will pay for the Highlands project out of that. There is no financing that will be tied to the Highlands project. And again, that comes following our consultation of our financial and the most favorable financing methods moving forward. One thing to keep in mind is there is life outside of these two projects from fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 29. These projects do account for a significant portion, but that does not mean that from 26 to 29 that we're letting go of our county facilities. We're not keeping up our vehicles. We're not keeping up our annual capital outlay of the school system. We're still doing all that. And you can see here in the top in column B, those two projects there total 146.2, which we've discussed. But aside from those, from the time period of fiscal year 25 through 29, we'll have annual school allocations of $5.7 million. That assumes keeping the school's annual capital outlay constant during that time period. The annual vehicle allocation for the county will be $3 million. That, again, that's assuming $600,000 a year for the replacement of our emergency services vehicles, our county fleet vehicles, and that is a number that has long been a parameter of the capital improvement plan that we established for that. So we continue doing that. County departments, there's been $38.3 million identified from 25 to 29 in the capital improvement plan that this funds. It's in there. It funds it. As you can see here, 25 million of that is tied to grant funding, which leads to a county requirement of $13 million. But during that 25 to 29, any of that $13 million that's not tied back to that 25.2 million in grant funding, the county can use to accomplish whatever priorities it sees fit to accomplish. Because this capital improvement plan is good from year to year as the county approves it. So that 13 million there, again, any of it that is not tied to that 25 million in grant funding, the county can use to accomplish whatever improvements it deems necessary. Also included in this fiscal year, in that $38.3 million, we have the Phase 1A of the Recreation Master Plan, $1.7 million. Roof on the detention center, $200,000. HVAC package for county buildings, $150,000. Public library roof, $250,000. Courthouse upgrades to the fire panels, $150,000. The appropriation to Southwestern Community College for the Fire Training Center, $1.8 million. All that is included in this capital improvement plan and what we're looking at here today. So essentially, from 25 to 29 in column D, there at the grand total, you can see $105,744,000 in county money. We're using that to leverage $193 million in capital improvements during this time. 88 million of that will be grant funded. So that is, there are other, we do keep up with our annual obligations and our annual capital requirements and things that we have planned that are outside of these, like the recreation park and these improvements at our other facilities. They're contained in this capital improvement plan and included in it. And we need to keep that in mind as we move forward. Also, I would like to go over, before we get into the models, very quickly. As I said earlier, the only financing is tied to the Franklin High School project. We're going to be financing $75.6 million for a term of 20 years. And here, again, I talked about in the budget presentation last week, and I'll talk about it again here tonight. It's in everything we do. Conservative budgeting, conservative parameters. Right now, we're planning every number you see for the Franklin High School project. The numbers that you see in these models are based on a 5% interest rate. Right now, if we went to market right now, we would get a true interest rate, a true interest cost, a tick rate of 3.75%. And you can see the difference that makes right there over the life of the loan. 117 million total debt service versus 106 million total debt service. So that is again, the conservatism which has been put into planning and projecting this. English teachers, I'm sorry for conservatism. But again, one thing we have to keep in mind here with this, we have from now through September, there's market volatility there. So this rate can fluctuate up, this rate can fluctuate down. But right now today, if we were to go to market, we'd get to 3.75. So we'll see what that means right here as we go to this slide. And I apologize. Mitch told me to tell y'all he sent you these because he knows you love them. But nonetheless, to get started, here, under this analysis, and you can see it, it's of course very fine print. This is if we were to go to market today at a 3.75% interest rate, we would transfer $20 million. There would be no need to change anything from what we originally planned, even though these projects increased by $13.2 million. There would be no need to increase our fund balance contribution that we had originally planned at $20 million. We would still fund the Highlands project through the fund balance. We would not, in no scenario will debt funding be associated with the Highlands project. Under this scenario, we would retain a 40% fund balance. This does not include the quarter-cent sales tax revenue that we have discussed. Again, that additional revenue just helps all these pictures. But in this scenario, it cash flows right away. And again, the capital improvement plan are two big projects, Franklin High School as well as Highland School. But also, life goes on. Our annual appropriations are in there, the rec park improvements are in there, everything we discussed is included in what we're talking about and included in this model that I'm discussing. So under this scenario, we cash flow this project immediately. We begin adding, we get down to a balance of $716,000 in our reserve fund in 2032. And in the next year, we start adding positive cash flow back into that reserve fund under this scenario. And again, that is if we were to go to market today at today's rates. 20 million from fund balance, just like we had planned. Wouldn't have as much cushion as we did before, but nonetheless, we still cash flow it. We still start adding positive back to reserves in 2033. Under the next scenario, this is the planning rate of 5% that we have been discussing. So at this, it changes things. If we appropriate 20 million from fund balance still, using this planning rate, again, all the financing stays the same, we cannot cash flow it. We come up about 4.2 million short using this planning rate of 5%, assuming we still transfer 20 million from fund balance. So there's an important note here at the bottom. As I mentioned earlier, that true interest rate of 3.75%, we can absorb all the way up to a 4.2% interest rate without going below zero in our reserve fund. So we can absorb up to that much market movement without having to talk about what we're talking about now and increasing and getting more revenue. Also, there's another option that we have here would be to discuss interest-only financing during the construction period. That would reduce that $4.2 million number down to about $2.5 million, making that more manageable. Again, under this scenario, we would still retain 40% fund balance, but we would still be looking for some revenue regardless if we were able to do interest-only financing using this planning rate. But the good thing about it is again, going back to our healthy financial position. If we increase our transfer from fund balance by $5 million, even on this planning rate, and again, we're on the planning rate, that's 5%. If we increase our fund balance transfer by $5 million under this scenario, then the project, the capital improvement plan cash flows immediately. We get down to a $731,000 capital reserve fund balance in 2034, and we start adding to that in 2035. Now, if you did this, we never fall below 35% fund balance, and we still haven't discussed the impact that an additional approximately $2.5 million should a quarter-cent sales tax that would be on the referendum, should that move forward, all this improves dramatically. But at the end of the day, if we were to do the interest-only financing during construction, that would make that 731 in 2034 $2.5 million available. Again, we'll be paying back more in the long run, but if we wanted to somehow lessen that burden up front, which the financial advisors are not seeming to think that we would need to do that. Again, but that's just another out we have, another point that is built into this that just shows you that everything can hopefully only become more favorable because we've been as conservative as we can in projecting these. So I think at the end of the day, under these assumptions, what I have up here now is when we look at both of these projects here tonight, we view what we're going to be discussing the $137,600,000 number for the Franklin High School project and the $8.5 million number for the Highland School project. When we're discussing those as project ceilings, and we're assuming an interest rate of 5% that we've discussed how conservative that is, we acknowledge we're going to have to, under this scenario, appropriate an additional $500,000 from fund balance, which still leaves us with 35% in fund balance. We still acknowledge that the FY25 capital improvement plans contains life outside of these two projects. In our annual appropriations, the $38 million during that time we can do in county projects. Then I think in the financial advisor will tell you with 100% confidence that we're in great position to move forward with these projects under these current conditions, budgeted conservatively, and that is where we're at. Again, a crossroads. This board, I can't, probably this board has grown fund balance $6 million in the time that you gentlemen have sat here. And the capital improvements that just during your tenure on this board that have went to schools and the increased operations, first time in 5 years that funding operationally have been increased to the school system. And that's all been under your gentleman's watch, and it's been a great working relationship. So with that being said, I wanted to give this presentation as we started out to kind of set the table, and I'm willing to answer any questions with regards to this that I'm able to. But the bottom line is that we're in great financial shape, and these costs have increased in recent months, which we have people here that can discuss this, but so have our revenues, and our financial position is, I think they're in a position here tonight where they got to have a project ceiling to be able to start putting bid documents together and move some of this stuff forward over the summer. If we're ever going to break ground officially in October, there's things that have to be done when the students are out of camp or out of school now in the summer, both of these projects, and I will let the professionals, I'll defer to them for that. But as far as that goes, that is our financial scenario. That's where we're at. And Emily, if you could show me, I'm going to put one more screen. You have a small spreadsheet in front of you that I'll put up on the screen, and we'll use it to guide our discussion. Use this to guide the discussion, and we can kind of just go right down the line with that. It's the May 28th edited. So essentially, that's where we're at. You can zoom that in. We don't know much about AI. We can't even get two screens. Okay, I'm good. All right, with respect to the Franklin High School project, and again, you have the sheet in front of you. As I said, 137.6. That's where we're at right now. We've spent about $4.1 million to date in planning fees, architect fees, $275,000 to CM at risk. The last action that this board took with respect to this project was on March 25th, 24, we approved the CM at risk contract with Carol Daniel. The next steps that are required, again, tonight, we will need consensus from the board on a $137.6 million project. Again, that's a ceiling. We will need consensus on that here tonight, and for the work to get started this summer, The architect has some things they need to be doing. It will require an amendment to their contract in the amount of $238,081. In addition, the CM at risk has hard bid. You have laying in front of you the items that they will need to perform and need to begin performing now. They are urgent as they have been hard bid and so they're there. This includes everything that will be needed to displace the ag program during the first phase of construction. Greenhouse allowance, temporary classroom allowance. They're going to be relocating some utilities, things of that nature. It's all been outlined. That's going to be $411,644. So with that, we know that, and we discussed the scheduling prior to this, that we will not, right now, we expect to have Carol Daniel bring us a GMP in August. We expect to go to the LGC in September, and we expect to begin in October. And so, with that being said, these things, that is the current schedule that we have been working under, and that we have been working to put these things together since it's only been a couple of months ago that we paired up the CM list with the architect. So we're at that point, and they're going to need to accomplish these things if we intend to stay on that timeline, which is what we've been working toward. And again, that would be an official groundbreaking in October. So, immediately following football season. Is that fair to say? Yeah, immediately following football season. So we will not have to lose a home football season. So in order for that project to keep tracking, they have to get this work done over the summer. Hence the request for approving both the amendment to the architect contract, and then it will be a construction contract with our CM at risk for $411,000. It will not be a contract for the entire project, for the entire high school project, because we can only pre-audit $411,000. In order to do the entire contract, we're going to have to get approval by the LGC, have the funding, and then at that time we can pre-audit the entire agreement. But so what this will be done with is we will execute a construction contract, but it will have a GMP Amendment 1. So it will have a guaranteed maximum price of $411,644 in summer work that is built in already to the $137,600,000 number. So that is what we would be discussing to be needed with the Franklin High School project at this time tonight. Basically, the consensus that when we authorize this summer work for $411,000, that is on a project that has a ceiling of $137,600,000, and we are moving forward in that manner and on schedule. So that is the importance of the consensus on the amount, and then, of course, for the work to be performed, it will require actual funding appropriation for the amendment to the architect agreement, as well as an actual funding appropriation for the $411,600 on the CM at risk contract. Same thing with the Highlands. When you go to Highlands here, you can see the renovations and the pre-K. We combine those projects. That's $8.5 million. The project ceiling. We spent about $300,000 to date in planning and design fees to get us to that $8.5 million. And the last action that we took on that project is we approved the CM at risk contract with Illinois in March. So since March, on each of these projects, both Carol Daniel and Illinois have been working with our architects to get to these project ceilings. So again, tonight we'll need consensus on the $8.5 million that can be viewed as a project ceiling. Also, as I mentioned, we will need the architect, in order for the summer work to occur, is going to need their contract amended in the amount of $16,463. And that is for this project to remain on schedule, as we had discussed previously. We will, while Vinoy does need a summer appropriation, it is not of the urgency of the Carroll Daniel appropriation. It can be approved at the regular meeting in June. It would be the same type scenario that we would be discussing approving here tonight with Carroll Daniel. It would be a construction contract with a guaranteed maximum price for the summer work only, and we would not pre-audit the Highlands project until we had appropriated funds from fund balance into the capital reserve fund, and that funding was available. So that the Vinoy contract amendment, or the Vinoy construction contract, will not be up for approval by the board tonight. They're getting hard bids on those items that they need, whereas Carroll Daniel has completed that. They're here, ready to go. We will be discussing that in June for the Highlands project. But what we would need here tonight for the Highlands project would be the approval of an architect, approval of amending the architect agreement, $16,463.
Mr. Rowland, may I ask a quick question about the total numbers? I just want to make sure, especially, well, for both of these, but the numbers I have in front of me for the Highlands pre-K/middle school total project of $8.5 million. Does that include the soft costs that we discussed, which is the $800,000 geotech, the FF&E and $350,000? I just want to make sure we're looking at the total sum together and that there's no surprises in the rest.
Yes, it's our understanding that that includes everything that those projects needed. There was a couple items outstanding, but we did not feel like that those would be potentially in the $100,000 to $200,000 range that would not make a difference in what we're discussing here tonight. If there was. The other projects you can see up here are items that we still have. There's some either been completed or in the pipeline. I spoke earlier about just the accomplishments that we've made in the last few years. The middle school locker room, $2.7 million, that's completed. The middle school track, we just approved the $930,000 for that. The wastewater, the Highland soccer field, we received the geotech report back on that. That is not included in the 25 CIP. We need to discuss next steps for that, but the Nantahala wastewater project, again, is included in the 25 CIP. There again, as we went to go back to, life goes on outside of those two projects. We're still keeping up with our annual needs and still able to accomplish some smaller county needs as well during that time. But as with any significant financial expenditure, you have to prioritize, because at the end of the day, we're keeping a 27% tax rate and doing all this.
I have a question about the that's all in here. It says next steps to be discussed, but it's not in the 25 budget. Last year, we delayed it for 1 year to get the study back, which we've had back for about a month now. Is it intended to be in the 25 budget? And we'll just discuss that.
No, it's not in these. It is not in these assumptions. We didn't get the geotech report back until April. We haven't received any follow-up from the geotech report in terms of next steps. You know, I guess we're still waiting on that, and again, that's why it's on the list. It's something to be discussed, but I think the first things we need to discuss on the list are the items in red, and we need to get those discussed and get nailed down, because they do impact the fiscal year 25 budget, and that is, you know, the purpose of we're here tonight. So those items, if we could discuss those first, and then, you know, get into what are the next steps with those other projects. But as far as, and then I have the wastewater, the Highlands pre-K, the Franklin High School project, all those are a go. basically, if we agree on these project ceilings and agree to move forward as proposed in the fiscal year 25 CIP. But I think the biggest portion of that is we have to know about that $146.2 million, because that's.
Mr. Rhodes, to answer part of the question about the soccer field, we will have this time with y'all's permission where Mr. Gibbs will bring and give y'all updated information about the geotech and some things that have been discovered and where we're at in that process in terms of remediation. We've got maybe a couple of options now of those so we can move forward. Just bring y'all up to speed on that, if that works for you guys.
Mr. Rowland, as chairman, I'd like to ask for a motion on the total cost, the project ceiling total cost from this board of $137,624,444. I can't see this down here. If you roll that down, or I can read it.
Yeah.
Mr. Shields, I'm not trying to step on your toes, but if you don't, I think what would be appropriate would be for this board of education to make the motion that we're accepting, and then move to you to make that board of commissioners, so you can move forward with your decision. Does
That
that work?
suits me, that suits me. You were looking at me, I thought, well, I got misstepped here.
That's
All right.
good. So, Mr. Roden, are you finished?
Yes, sir. That's basically the red there. If this Board of Education and this Board of County Commissioners, again, we've tried to present the what we feel is a project ceiling. We have tried to further present the fact that the financial position enables us to continue moving forward with these projects. Now, everything else will be up to these two boards to decide. And if the boards would like to continue moving forward on the current project schedule, then these actions would need, that are in red up here, would need to be taken tonight.
All right, with your indulgence, then, I will talk to my board and we'll move forward. Board members, you've heard Mr. Rowland's presentation, you've heard the figures that they now have in terms of that. I did want to make a comment, if you remembered, I think we're in a position where we can move forward with this in large part due to the action of Senator Corbin and Representative Gillespie. We made it possible, I think, in large part from the $62 million educational grant that we're able to bring to the table to help offset and pay for this project as we move forward. Board members, it's important, if you heard Mr. Rowland, we have a tight schedule to be able to move forward and move forward based on what Carl Davis has said. So at this time, I'm going to open the floor for any further discussion or for a motion concerning the Franklin High School project at this time.
I'd like to go ahead and start the motion.
This was brief.
I would like to move that we accept the proposed project ceiling for the Franklin High School project in the amount of $137,624,444, which includes the contract amendments for the LS3P summer work required in the amount of $238,081, as well as the pre-con work for Carol Daniels' contract in the amount of $411,644,000.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, board members, have a motion and a second concerning the proposal to accept the $137,000 as a ceiling along with the other costs. Any other discussion? 137 million, what did I say? 137,000 of which? 137,624,444. Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, entertain, please, all those in approval, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Very good. We'll move that forward to the commissioners for consideration. The second thing for this board to consider, of course, is the combination project between Highlands Middle School renovation and the necessary things for Highlands Pre-K. Again, I think to Benoit, we've been issued a maximum along with others. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion concerning that proposed project by this board.
Mr. Chairman, having done the due diligence on this project, I recommend that we accept the ceiling of $8,575,068, and as well as the LS3P summer work of $16,463 to move forward with the summer work and procurement needed for the Highland School project as presented in this update.
Do I hear a second? This board now has a motion and a second to consider the proposal concerning the non-Zoom school renovation and pre-K. Is there any other discussion by this board? Hearing none, all in favor of acceptance, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Very good. So, Chairman Shields, at this time, for those two things of consideration, we will pass that along our approval and request that y'all all consider both of those projects as we have discussed.
Thank you, sir. No disrespect to anybody in this room, I'm reading the agenda right here, and I feel like this is intended to be a budget work session. I see a lot of people in the crowd out here. A lot of you guys are here for your job. You're scared about the future of this county. You know, I remember sitting in this room about 2 years ago, and there was a $118 million number on the board, and I want to put the architects on the hot seat. I want to put this corner on the hot seat, and I quit writing in about 10 minutes, and I've probably got 15 questions, and I'm a liaison. So I just, real quick, I'd like to kind of open up this thing into a healthy discussion, which is budget item number 2, a work session, and just kind of get into the weeds a little bit on what we're getting, what that extra $20 million is bringing to Macon County. I support all these projects. I really do. I support every one of them, including Highlands. But I feel like the Highlands project started off at $4 or $5 million. We're at 9-point-something million or 8-point-something. I just feel like it's this board's job to ask those questions. And, you know, I just want to make sure that everybody in this room understands that, you know, I see Sheriff Holbrook's back there. I'm looking at a couple items I wrote down: the EMS, Sheriff's Department, landfill, Parks and Rec, Park Departments, Senior Center, Transit, Lincoln County Schools. But to Mr. Rawlins' point, the 5-year CIP is funded, but we're financially tied up until 2034, period. So I feel like this board, their role right here is to vet this process and have conversations of substance and make sure that, you know, I'm not suggesting we cut or trim anything, but I think we need to, you know, put this group over here on the corner in the hot seat and just kind of see what the difference is in this $20 million. And a couple more things, just real high-level questions that I wrote down. Derek, I heard you say that we're expecting a GMP in August, but we have a $137 million number being plugged into our CIP. So do we have a GIP, or are we just estimating GMP?
Yeah, that has been established again by the CM at risk, paired up with the architect. They were 80% complete with drawings, and I think that 137.6 is a GMP based on an estimated GMP based on the.
It's estimated right down there. We made a commitment to the district, work LSP in the district. That's the cap. We put it out on the street.
Would you address the mic up there? I'm sorry.
This is Henry Urban with Carroll Daniel Construction. We're pleased to have him with us here tonight.
Please understand, there's no anterior motive here. I just feel like the last time we were given a GMP was 118. We still don't have one, and now we're looking at 137 million.
Thank you for having us. First and foremost, on behalf of the building, thank y'all for putting your trust in us. Thank you for hiring us. We've only been on board for a couple months. During that time, we worked closely with Emily and her team at LS3P. We have run an initial budget. It is not a guaranteed maximum price yet, but it is a pretty high-level, detailed budget. We have faith in their plans, and we've made a commitment to the district that, you know, this is the number not to exceed. We're going to work as we need to make sure that when it comes in on bid day, that's the number. So.
I received this information today about 2 o'clock. I have seen no plans since many months ago.
we've been all over the place with pricing. I mean, we've even considered hopeful that we got down to 100 million, or even below 100 million. So at that time, we sent in a resolution to the state stating that we are ready to move forward with this high school if we get that $62 million grant. Then we come back and then we got hit with 127 million. Oh, we're tied up with this now because the state, we've promised the state if we get this grant, we're going to go forward with this. And now we're at 137 million. I've yet to see any plans. We did phase one. That was the sports complex. I haven't seen anything to show me what we're getting in that phase one sports complex. I haven't seen anything finalized plans for the new high school. I haven't seen any costs associated with tearing down all of these perfectly sound structures at Franklin High School. And I've said over and over and over, Chairman Shields convinced me that Franklin High School campus is obsolete with the current curriculum. And he's got me convinced of that. But to come in here and take a wrecking ball to these buildings, I'm still stuck on that. But you know, just last meeting that we had, I voted for a project without seeing plans. And that was a mistake, because those plans were presented, or those plans were not presented, but vote on it so we can move forward. It's substandard. It was not done to the specs. I will not vote for any other project without first talking to my constituents. The second thing is without seeing a set of plans and going over those plans. I'm not against this school. I graduated from this school. In fact, my truck's parked out there at the parking lot where I parked when I was in high school. I got my driver's license. Every chance I get, I park there just to make sure that parking spot's still good. But you know, one of the concerns that we've had is the drainage going right through here, going down through underneath the high school, the football stadium, and what goes out to that other side. There's a lot of water going to flow through there. Where's that water going? I've never heard of a plan of permission from the adjoining property owners for that water to flow through their property. There's a lot of unknown questions in this high school project. And for me to be on the hooks for $137 million without interest, $200 and some million, I think the people, the taxpayers of this county deserve the final answers. We have a proposed cost estimate of $137 million. What does that include? I don't know. I have not seen these plans. And I'm not too sure how many people in this room, other than the school system and maybe the liaisons to this school, even have seen the plans. And I don't even know that my mind functions well enough to look at $137 million set of plans without a professional going through it. Nothing, I mean, no hard feelings or nothing. But to hit me with it at 2 o'clock today and expect me to vote for this tonight, it's not. I'm just going to tell you right now, my vote is a no until I get to the bottom of this.
Can I interject? Go up to your point there. My interpretation of tonight wasn't necessarily coming here and vote that way, but it was a work session. So as a liaison with the school board, Mr. Will, Mr. Greg Love, Mr. Wilkes, and Mr. Breeden, Mr. Shields and I have these conversations often. And what's bad about this whole political process is only 2 of us were in that meeting. So I think to me, tonight is to go over a lot of the items you discussed, and I think they're real issues. I mean, some of the stuff that I had wrote down on this list were to discuss the entrance of the back lower practice field where the band practices, where the weight room used to be, and how our liaison committee has been meeting with the town of Frankfurt, has plans on meeting with the town of Frankfurt, on addressing the intersection, and there's a lot of meat and potatoes that I feel like we haven't gone over, that I really kind of hope this turns into a work session. You know, I don't mind to stay around for 3 hours, because neither board has entirely got to go into the in-depth conversation that the liaison committees have, and I think you guys are all up there. I really do. So I just want to interject with some of those points you have about it. And there's a good answer to substance as well.
As chairman, I guess my concern is that we need to move forward due to the time frame that we're in. I can't see what's there at the top. I can't see this here. But in this vertical piece here, they have a number of things that these construction people need to start now on the campus of Franklin High School. And then your red category here, it lists these things that they need to have done now and not wait till school starts. So the need for the monies that will cover this construction piece this summer, it has it listed here in this vertical red category. And I just feel like if we go into delay mode, then when school starts, we will have a campus, to me, in my opinion, would be very high risk for students, faculty, due to the safety part, people moving around. If there's some way that we can start this project, and I'm saying this to be funny, but I'm really serious. Really, this project should have been what they're talking about here, they need to do this summer on this campus, should have been done yesterday. When you look at here, and you see they're talking about agriculture building, those type of things are in that red area. What are you going to do with those students when they show up for school first day, and we haven't done anything for them? Where do they go? The Higdon property is now captured by one of our construction management teams, and I don't know where to go from here other than to go forward and try to get some of these loose end things done that's mentioned in these red categories up here. If you could refer back to that on your slide there.
Mr. Shields, would it be appropriate?
What are
Would we be able to ask Carol Daniel, put you guys on the spot again, to come up and explain and give us a little bit more details? Because as Josh mentioned, us liaisons we've been in those meetings. We know what they're talking about with the summer work and the urgency behind it. So would you be able to come and explain that to the group as a whole for us?
So before we start with that, I just want to say, number one, I am absolutely for this high school, and I'm praying that some way, somehow, we get that project started before the end of the year. Now, before I came on the board, what was presented up there was $118 million. Now, when I got on board, we were working on lowering it below that $118 million. Now, somewhere we jumped from $118 million to $137 million. What I just want to know is how that extra $20 million that we're adding on right now, where's that coming from? What does that cost for? And also, I was under the impression that this was a work session. I did not know that we were coming in to vote for anything, so I just want to make myself clear on that. I was under the impression that we're going to be discussing all of this because I still have a lot of questions. And again, don't misunderstand me because I am for this project. Again, I'm praying that we get this school started before the end of the year, but I do want to make sure we do this right.
So let me start by saying, my name is Kyle Dorsey with Carol Daniel. I'm the Senior Pre-Construction Manager. This is Jess Hughes. He's the Senior Project Manager that is going to be handling this project. I will do my best to answer your questions. To that point, I would say please bear with us. As Andrew mentioned, we've been part of this project for several months now, but there are definitely conversations that happened before we joined that I can't speak to. As far as the overall breakdown, so briefly, this is the summer work that we've been talking about that needs to happen in order to, once the balance of the project is approved, this needs to have been done this summer so that, to Mr. Shields' point, we're not displacing agriculture or anything. Once the project is approved and we get going in October.
The majority of what you saw up there, I can go back up. The majority of what you see up there too is our earthwork, utility, and paving number. That is to temporary, or not temporary, is to relocate existing utilities. So when we come on campus to begin construction in the fall, we will not have to disturb the existing facilities, be it sewer, be it water, be it stormwater. So the intent is to do that stuff during the summer when there's not students on campus. That, having done K-12 work with Carroll Dagger for a long time, that's our window when students are on campus. So when students do come back on campus, it's safe, it's secure, all the facilities are in place, and when we begin construction in the fall, we won't have to be digging up utilities, rerouting things for active buildings. So that's what the largest portion of what you see there, the cost is. The allowance for the greenhouse and for the temporary classroom. The greenhouse is part of the plan in the fall is to tear down the existing greenhouse, the ag building that's adjacent to the existing stadium. That would be to put the greenhouse in a different location on campus, so through the duration of construction, we won't be displacing that again. The temporary classroom allowance, that is for the ag classroom itself. We'll move it away from the stadium and its existing footprint. So when we start construction, we're not moving students halfway through a school year. So they'll start on campus in this coming fall in a temporary ag classroom that'll have facilities, fire alarm, electrical protection run to the temporary facility. That way we're not displacing students halfway through the year. That's the idea behind the urgency and what you see up here cost-wise. We have included a contingency for hooking up the classroom, low voltage, fire alarm, and the power that I mentioned. So that's the urgency behind what needs to be done this summer on campus. And that's kind of an explanation of what those pieces are. If anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer them. I know a lot of you folks who have not been in the meetings with the school board with us. These are some of the things that we've been talking with them about. So we stress the urgency. If construction is to start in the fall, these are the pieces that need to be put in place this summer to facilitate that construction.
Can you clarify for us the timeline, just for this pre-con summer work, when that would need to be approved by both of our boards so that we can move forward, you can get your permits and get it moving, get it complete before the students come back in August?
Speaking frank, it's something that needs to be approved in the next couple of weeks, just because of the timing of the temporary ag classroom, the amount of work that we have to do on campus, the temporary utilities, is probably about a 1 month to 6 week duration. And I think everyone in this room understands how small summer is, with students. So being honest, it's something we need to make a move on very quickly.
And I think that's going on what he's talking about there too. When school starts, the people who've been here to high school, been the principal of this high school, you got 300 plus cars that students are driving. That is a safety problem. If you got an X number of buses on this campus, that's a safety problem. These things that they've mentioned up here that's in that vertical sheet are things that are really liability topics. You need to get those things done this summer so the kids can start school and the faculty in a safe and orderly manner. If we don't, it's going to be chaos. And I think any reasonable person can look at those vertical sheet or look at this right here and see the need for this. But you need to get this done. If we have to bring out and put monies in this year, these things are necessity for starting a school. And if you are sitting out here on the first day of school and you don't have a place for the agriculture students to go, that's our fault. So there's things that needs to be done, and we need to find a way to lock the money so they can do that this summer. People, it's a safety issue.
So to move forward as far as the overall breakdown, the composition of that $137+ million. So there were a few items in the different spreadsheet, but you see that. So that 137, I believe the overall center was $600,000. So looking at so you see the three columns on the right-hand side, the cost of work, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and soft costs. So we presented a budget off of the 8% drawings to the liaison committee, and that total was just under $126 million. And that is for the physical construction of the building. So that's everything that's in that cost of work. To that point, so this is actually, so you see it's totaled up now to just under $125 million. As a result of that budget and the continuing conversations there, we, with the architect, were able to identify and act upon $1 million of value engineering options without cutting the scope. So you're still getting the same project. We were able to cut $1 million out of that projected budget number. So, and then you see that's the budget, the pre-construction fee and the construction fee, the temporary classrooms, part of which is what was discussed for the summer work, and then the contingency for the project overall. So then as you move down into that FF&E column, these, you see where it's 3%, 1%, 1.3. Those are projected budgets for that work, which, correct me if I'm wrong, that is a conservative number with guidance from both vendors and also state established guidelines for what to carry for a project of this size. So we talked about this being a ceiling. This is, again, a conservative estimate of what is going to be spent for those costs as well.
I think one other thing you can elaborate on is your bus entry. We're going to have to widen McCullough Drive. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's one thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about the work this summer. We're providing a temporary bus loop widening McCullough Drive to use as a loop throughout the duration of construction. It seems like it makes a lot more sense to start students back in the fall with this new bus loop where they know how to get to their bus, how to be dropped off, how to be picked up with their buses. Because once construction begins, we will need to shut down the road that goes through the middle of campus, because that's in the footprint of our construction. So built into, you want to come back for a second? Built into that $211,000 is widening McCullough Drive, basin bindering it with asphalt, and then putting in a new bus loop on that side of the campus for pickup and drop off students, bus traffic. And we met with the school board and the people here at Franklin High School when we came up with a plan with their input. So this is not just us coming up with a plan and telling everybody what we're going to do. It's a collaborative effort, and we're happy to do that. That's what we're here for. And we wanted to provide a plan that was safe for the students, but also was doable this summer, and it can be for the duration of construction. Thank you for saying that too. I forgot to do that.
And I definitely have a feeling for Mr. Sherrill, what he's saying, but also you got to remember, there's only two of us can meet at a time in a meeting, and we're the liaison. Josh and I are the liaison to that. He's 100% correct. There's people on this board here that are not liaisons. They're left in the dark, and I don't know the way it operates, but we have been informed to a certain degree along with the Board of Education liaison. We probably have not spread that word because you just can't meet more than two. I can't meet with John and Paul because that makes three. We got a meeting, it's an official meeting, so we have to keep it down where you're exactly right. Somebody's left out regarding information. And,
if I can speak on behalf of the Board of Education, I hope, kind of get a little bit of impression, the action we took maybe a little bit mistaken. That was not, the board did not take action to try to pressure the commissioners to move forward in any shape, fashion, or form. However, we have sponsored public meetings. We actually have put all the information out at the central office. The architects put together a mock-up showing exactly what the building drawings should look like along with the plans. So they've been available for public review for several months now, shall we say. And it's actually on our website that we put out. I mentioned on y'all's website also, showing the plans and what we plan on. I also would point the finger to the figures that Mr. Rowland gave up. If you look at the project funding summary for the high school, you'll see that the actual construction cost for it was $113 million and change. The other add-ons were what's I'll refer to as soft costs, which include all the fees, some of which have been paid, which includes architectural fees, a contingency fund of over $6.3 million. So everything about that, I hope it's not misconstrued. Our board has met, we've talked about it, we've had the information there, and we feel like it is the project and the cost that they're giving us of a guarantee, bluntly, is as good as it's going to get. As we continue to delay, things just continue to go up. 4 or 5 years ago, we were looking at fees quite a bit less in terms of that. And then the final thing I'll say is we're aware of, like I said, the $62 million grant that we're able to procure, which should make this whole thing much, much more affordable. So please don't misconstrue. We took the action because we feel very comfortable with the people that have working for us, which is LS3P and also Carol Daniel. We feel like that we have the best team put together to construct a high school that the community will be proud of, and frankly, as reasonable as we can, because we'll continue to look at ways, and Carol Daniels came up with some suggestions to try to save monies, in terms, and we most certainly will do that as we move forward. So I'm hoping that the commissioners don't misunderstand. We're not pressuring, but we feel comfortable. The reason we took the action we took tonight, we feel very comfortable with the team that's giving the figures to us, and feel like that the costs are very, very reasonable, and that's why we are willing to move forward this time. We just want to make sure you guys knew that was the intent of from our side, that we felt comfortable and feel like it's time to move, along with the schedule constraints that you've spoken of. Basically, as we delay, things get more and more complicated. So hopefully that kind of clarifies where we're from and the actions that we took tonight. Thank you.
I feel your pain because when I was elected and sworn to this board, this was I came into this as a new scenario with the high school. I feel your pain. I appreciate what y'all do and everything. I didn't want to come across as I'm against this by no means. I just say there are a lot of unanswered questions, and just like I said, we're in the dark. And to put my taxpayers on the hook for $137 million just at the blink of an eye, without having all these answers. I get it. I understand how important this is and the time frame. But there again, it's these are things that you lose a lot of sleep over tonight, making sure that you're doing the right thing. But no, I really appreciate it. But I know a lot about this company and everything. So, thank you.
I agree with him. I appreciate Commissioner Young's, I thought this was a work session about 2 hours ago. And it was a work session to discuss the Board of Education capital improvement request into our overall county budget. And come in here, and if we were to have a work session, this would be the worst venue to have. I'm apologizing to be my age, but I haven't heard about half of what's been said. I can't see any of this stuff here. That's because of our old age vision. And I'm not really sure what we're getting for that money either. I was privileged to sit in on a couple of meetings, particularly with the site work. And we went through the drainage. The big thing about phase one was the drainage, and I had to take a meeting with the architect doing some of the plans on that. I had some questions on that drainage, on the discharge on the neighbors. I've never heard anything from that. I have no idea what the plan is for the drainage on the athletic complex. So I'm not prepared tonight to vote to commit to any of this. This is the work session, was the premise that I came from, and that's where I stand with this thing. I'm not ready to vote on anything until we work this into the budget. And I appreciate the work that's been done here this afternoon, but that's not what I made to do this vote.
Mr. County Manager, maybe you should elaborate a little bit on, this is not going to cause a tax increase. Can you elaborate some on that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that under what we have right now, this does not constitute a tax increase, and I think, again, our job is to give you the information, and our job is to inform you of our financial standing and our ability to move forward under the case presented, and that is under the assumption that this project is to stay on the timeline. You know, the first, I know we have discussed this timeline prior with our desire to be able to go to the LGC in September. We have to get sale dates scheduled for the bond arrangements, and we have to get on the LGC schedule, and there's timelines from a financing standpoint as well that take months to get into place, and they're firm when you get them into place. And so that again is assuming that, you know, we have paid the architects to go through the construction documents up to this point. We hired the CM at risk to come on with the architect at 80% complete, understanding that the next phase in this would be procurement. And we're logically now, we have come to a point where we've done everything on this project, and it is time to go to the next phase. And in the next phase happens to be discussing these numbers and the total project cost and the need for, while we don't have an accurate GMP at this time or an exact GMP at this time, the need for us to have a ceiling to work off of, to be able to get these sale dates scheduled, and to be able to get these calls with the local government commission scheduled, and to let Carol, Daniel, and Roy begin to proceed with their letting of these hard bid numbers, which they went into how conservative those are as well. So all these things, you know, in this presentation, and with time being of the urgency, is simply because that is the point we have gone as far as we can, without making what are now these crucial decisions if we want to remain on the current project schedule. And again, that is what the information we're bringing to you here tonight, and it's certainly the decision of each of these boards to make.
Where does the new East Franklin School come into play with all this financing? Because I don't see any mention of.
It's not in the 5-year CIP.
And that's exactly what we were presented was, we're gonna need a new school. We'll be lucky if we're able to use that school. 5 years, it's not going to happen. So, I mean, that's just what the conversations were, and, I mean, this is serious business. We've got to be extremely careful with jails. I mean, we've got problems and all this stuff, and we have no idea what the library is going to cost and everything else, so, and the last thing that I want to see while I'm serving on this board is a tax increase. We are financially secure, but if we're not extremely careful through these numbers, we could be forced for a
auxiliaries.
Mr. Rowland, before you sit down, I was hoping you could just review exactly what is needed tonight in terms of keeping us on the timeline as far as a vote for the $411,000 for FHS work and $508,000 for the Highland School project.
Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to reiterate to both boards is something that comes up regularly in our liaison committee, which is we're looking about a 1% increase every single month that we delay these projects. So I don't think these ceilings are even going to be accurate if we don't do the movement needed to get these going this summer. You will see those go up.
Ms. Wilkes, with respect to the Franklin High School project, what we needed is consensus on the project ceiling of $137,624,444. Authorization for the county manager to execute a contract amendment with LS3P for $238,081 with the accompanying budget amendment from general fund balance. And authorize the county manager to enter into the construction contract with Carroll Daniel containing a GMP Amendment 1 in the amount of $411,644 with the accompanying budget amendment from general fund balance. And that is the highlighted bold in the notes column of the sheet you have there.
Mr. Rowland, correct me if I'm wrong when I said what I'm about to say. Our understanding is that $137 million plus is the absolute ceiling. We are not signing a contract for that amount. That is simply information given to us by the construction manager that we have chosen to move forward. So we're not taking action to lock in anything at that point about that. But we are, that's what our motion was to move forward in order to do the other two things, which you were saying needs consensus, which is the amendments. So that was the action I think we took, was the acceptance of the recommendation of the ceiling, knowing that's a work in progress. But mainly also inherent in our motion that we passed was necessary funds to move forward with, as you say, the statement schedule. So I hope that clarifies to some extent
Yes.
what we did.
And again, both projects, the financing assumptions we reviewed are based on a 5% true interest cost planning rate.
Correct.
Anybody mind if I jump in? Let's just start this work session. I feel like I don't care if you're on midnight, I'll be honest with you. Let's hash it out. I feel like I'm just thinking on behalf of myself, my personal business. I'm not looking to cut all the goods out of the school, but our business just bought a crane, brand new crane. And I'm just going to use an easy number. Let's say it cost $100,000. Was their asking price, $100,000. And we negotiated, I talked to them, I threw them a few offers, a few numbers. They didn't take anything off the crane, they didn't change anything on the crane, but we bought the crane for $88,000. My point is, that's what I want to do here. We have a $137 million project. I guess my heartburn is, I wrote down the term equitable. They took $1 million off. I'm not trying to throw Carol Daniels under the bus. They took down a few curtains and a few other things inside the school, but I feel like I want to see some meat and potatoes. I want to see, we're using superior walls, board walls on the ground, block, like what are the costs? I feel like I want to get in the weeds a little bit and kind of feel like I've vetted this process. And I feel like what's happened to me, a little bit of my anxiety is like everybody else in this room. I talked to Mr. Rowland today at about 2 o'clock, and I just want to feel like this is an equitable transition. And listen, I'll make this really easy for everybody in the room, where there's no gasps. But I support this $411,000, and this has to happen, in my opinion, to keep this project on track. But my reservation is committing to $137 million because, like, you're committing to something you really don't know what's inside the box. You really don't know. And I mean, they're only 80% done. And if anybody in this corner wants to address that, please. I think that's kind of what we're asking for up here.
I want to speak to a little bit of the scheduling of this and a little bit of a background. I think for the benefit, we've had our CMs on board. sort of tail end of this process. So when we issued our 80% documents to Carol Daniel for them to complete the estimate, which is the data that you see on the screen, we also issued those drawings in print format to both the school board and to the county through one of our liaison meetings for y'all to conduct whatever kind of review you needed or to ask whatever questions that you wanted. So you do have access to that same information that Carol Daniel used to put their pricing estimates together. We have continued to work, and our documents will be finished on June 5th for bidding. That's the process that we have set forth and the schedule that we've set forth in order to meet the timeline to get ourselves to a point where we have a GMP and to get to the LGC meeting in September. So we do have final documents. We're a week and a half away of that. I've looked at every single sheet that we've prepared in the last week and a half to make sure that they are complete and accurate for those to go out to Carol Daniel. We'll be repeating that same process next week with the Highlands project as well. So those are, both projects are on the same schedule timeline and are undergoing the same effort at the moment to have completed documents. And so you do have access to that information. There is still time for us to continue to review that. From my perspective, and I may speak out of turn with Carol Daniel, it is helpful and useful to this process for us to understand what our budget is and what the ceiling is, because it does allow us to measure recommendations that we make around cost savings and how to give you the best building that we can in a price point that you want to pay for. Without that, we can continue to proceed using the same stewardship that we've used the entire project up until this point to give you best value in your buildings in a transparent way that allows us to look at the documents and explore every detail and every condition that we want to do. And so if there's concern about $137 million ceiling, I think that it doesn't change the outcome of the summer work needs, because there is only a commitment required for those two much smaller costs than that, and we can continue to work on that. We're going to have a GMP in another 2 months, 3 months, 2 months-ish, that will have vetted some of those estimates that we have made based on the assumptions in the 80% set of documents. And so we get ever closer to more confidence and more finality in the prices that we get, along with opportunities to bid with 3 bidders in every part of this project in a transparent way that will give you, Josh, the kind of negotiation that you're looking for in terms of what does something actually cost as part of this project. And so that is the stage that we're in, and that is the schedule and the timeline that we're following really in both projects. And so we can deep dive however you'd like to.
All right, maybe would you just kind of give us an overview of finishes, floor finishes, wall finishes inside the school, concrete, maybe roofs, ceilings, just maybe you can kind of show these guys, or please explain to these guys how we're actually getting bids on this CMS project.
Yeah. We have, our high school building is about 277,000 square feet. That's been vetted repeatedly in various work sessions with the school system to identify what the needs are for the high school, for instruction, and for the number of students that we intend to serve. It is a mixed construction type of load-bearing concrete block masonry that is primarily in the auditorium and the gymnasium side of the building. The remaining side of the building, which is the 3-story classroom building and media center and administration portions of the building, are steel frame construction. We have cast-in-place concrete poured foundations for the basement level, which is where the gym is that walks out onto the stadium elevation of the site. We're using CMU construction block, interior wall partitions around all of the gym, high impact areas like the CTE labs and welding, automotive, carpentry labs. On the upper floors of the classroom buildings, we have steel frame construction with metal stud and gypsum wall infill to make the partitions that form the corridors and the classroom building itself. We have your standard suspended tile ceilings, which you see in almost all of your buildings that you have currently on this campus and throughout most of the district. We're using a limited amount of carpet, primarily in administrative and media center areas. The remainder of the flooring throughout the school will be a quartz tile, which is a very similar product to the VCT flooring that you see that you used to strip and wax. This is a more modern version of that we eliminate the stripping and waxing, so there's limited ongoing maintenance cost for the school system moving forward, but it's a very durable product that's intended to last, in the same kind of life expectancy as VCT. We have wood gym floors. We have a little bit of poured terrazzo flooring in the main entry and cafeteria high-use areas for traffic, but the remainder of the building is primarily quartz tile flooring unless we need sort of a specialized floor in an athletic area or on the stage, for example. We have standard aluminum storefront window glazing systems that are in manageable sized openings throughout the course of the building. Our roofs are primarily flat. There are 60 mil TPO flat roof with rigid insulation that slopes to internal roof drains in most locations, and in some locations to external gutters and downspouts. We have a limited amount of sloped roofing at the front entry piece. There's one of the drop-off canopies has a standing seam metal roof. Exterior, we're using a combination of brick veneer, primarily in lower elevations of the building where they are in close contact with students and with people who can touch the building. Brick is a really durable material for that. In the upper floors where we can't reach them, we're using some lighter materials with a standing seam metal wall panel and some phenolic, which is a color that's, for those of you that have seen the renderings, the bright red accent pieces throughout the school that pick up on the panther. The Franklin Panther Red is a product called phenolic, which is a composite sort of plastic material, for lack of a better way to explain it. I think that maybe covers spitball off the top of my head.
So, as far as the actual schedule or process we were taking bids, so again, we mentioned the value that you're going to get from this project, or we're taking the bids, is going to be getting the 3 bidders for the different packages. So we have initially, we broke our budget into the scopes of work that we're anticipating, and that will be fine-tuned as we get the 100% of the bid set documents. And so that will be broken into structural steel, masonry, concrete, roofing, glass, and so all of those we'll have the bid packages that clearly define just a little bit further sort of what is already laid out in the drawings and specs for the subcontractors laying out. This is what is expected for each of you that is bidding the project. We will issue those with the drawings and specs with a 4 or 5 week timeline, and then we will take those bids, we'll open them, and that's when we'll have the preliminary GMP based on the results of that bid opening of, okay, these are the 3 or more than 3 bidders for each of these bid packages. I think we're something like 50 different bid packages. And so then we'll have the preliminary GMP. We'll then take a week or so and vet those bids, make sure that the low bidder is responsible, has everything covered that's in the bid package, the drawings, the specs, and then that will inform the final vetted GMP, which again, that will be with this conversation about what that ceiling is going to be based on the results of that preliminary, assuming that we are underneath that budget number, we're within that ceiling. In the event that we were to come in over budget, we would take that opportunity to also engineer and work with the low subs to get back under that ceiling so that the finalized vetted GMP would be within that ceiling.
And to that, with these ceilings, as each of y'all mentioned, with the different numbers that we've seen on these projects, and then our need to know for the CIP before we authorize this summer work, if we got a number back of 100, and they said, hey, we'll give you a ceiling of 160 million, then that would have been a huge problem. We would have been looking at having to, really woe on this thing, because that would have implied tax increase, things like that. So we wanted that ceiling so we could begin to schedule with confidence these conference calls for the bond financing, the meeting with the local government, with the understanding, and Carol, Daniel, and Emily have told us what they have just told you is that, hey, this is the ceiling, and in this bid process, we're in every way confident that this is going to come down. But we needed to go ahead and notice it just says consensus of the board for both of those ceilings. And that's just because we had to have that maximum, it's not gonna go over this no matter what. So we knew how to plan in our capital improvement plan and how to set up our financing. And if we would need to be having discussions with the board regarding potential tax increases or potential dramatic redrawings with the architect and see him at risk. So we had to know all that. So that's why that we wanted them to go ahead and establish these ceilings and let the board have that information tonight.
I don't need to take over this meeting, but I guess legally, I mean, is that a gentleman's agreement that says, hey, our ceiling's 137? What happens if it does come in at 167? Is there any kind of implication there? Is that just a good faith?
I mean, yeah, if the consensus on 137 is that there can budget, and you come up with different scenarios under which it can be financed depending on the interest rate and the maximum of 137. Once that bid comes in, it can't be above that. So this is to lock that in and then work once that bidding process finishes. Very, very different. The help is obviously below 137. That 137 likewise includes the 5% contingency amount. So the actual price is what, 119 plus that. So basically, I'm telling an agreement on that, to be honest. We're not signing anything at 137 right now. So it's like Joe Daniels is not signing anything at 137 until they get their bids back. We're having a final project, a final contract in that time. The consensus is being very clear about the budget. This is for the budgeting process. Currently, the consensus contracting on the day before that.
Two more things I'm going to stop. And sorry to everybody in this room. See, this is what happens in these budget work sessions, and they're really boring. They really are. And ask Emily. I'm always the guy that has way more questions, and I feel like that's really what I'm here to do. And I really want to ask Emily what your $238,000 architect amendment clause is. If the scope changed to bring on $250,000 in architect fees.
At the very beginning of you hiring LS3P, we established an overall fee amount that was a percentage of an assumed budget at the time. And if you recall, this was at the very beginning of the project. We were still analyzing and asking the question around whether or not we should renovate and repair the buildings that we have, or we should look at a new construction solution for the future of Franklin High School. And so there was an overall fee amount that was negotiated that's based on a percentage of construction cost. And that fee is broken down by phase over the course of the timeline of the project. And so what has occurred over the course of this contract is that fee percentage that has been pre-negotiated and is in our contract has been broken down as a percentage. And at each phase of the process that we go through to design and build a project, you have authorized the fees based on that percentage breakdown that's in our contract for that next phase for us to proceed with our work. And so the $238,000 is just the authorization of that next phase of the project, which is the bidding and procurement phase that has already been pre-negotiated. It's not an increase to our fee amount, it's just the next phase of the fee that's already been negotiated. It's based on that percentage.
Amendment threw me off.
Yeah, no, we're not editing the amount of our fee in our contract with this amendment. We have done an amendment to our contract that gives us the authorization to proceed with the next phase. And that's just the dollar value that was assigned to this particular phase as part of our contract negotiation at the beginning of the project.
Emily, would you walk me through phase one, please? Drainage and what we're actually doing to the football stadium. Are we still planning on adding 5 feet of soil to that, raising that level up? And where is that water going to drain?
Sure. And I would say as the process and the design of this school has evolved over time, and now certainly in partnership with Carol Daniel, We have sort of loosened the definition of phase 1 and phase 2. Those phases are going to run concurrently, and so there's not a sequence implied in that particular scope of the work, because there is value to us in constructing those two things concurrently. But what we were using as phase 1 in our descriptions earlier in the project, when we thought there was opportunity to stagger the process and the timeline for completion, phase 1 includes the replacement of the football stadium and track, the construction of a field house building with locker rooms, a press box and home side concessions building, and a visitor side concessions building. It also included at the time the reworking of the storm drainage that starts up at Porter Street, where the new DOT roundabouts construction happened a little while ago, and travels all the way through the campus all the way to Phillips Street. And so that is still a portion of the work. It's now going to run concurrent with the remainder of the building project, but it will finish sooner because it's not as much work, obviously, to build. So the stormwater portion of that work is still, the concept is the same. We have two types of stormwater on this site that we have to manage. We have water that lands on our site that belongs to us on our property of Franklin High School that we have to collect and route and introduce into the municipal stormwater system at a rate. And that there's some code requirements around detention if we create too much stormwater to introduce at one time. The other part of the stormwater is the water that comes from Porter Street area that is off-site water that's collected from a 75-acre watershed where Franklin High School at their football stadium right now is the low point of that, and so you know why. You know why you have been having some ongoing stormwater issues with your current stadium. That water from off-site we are collecting. It is currently running through your site underground, and we're going to reconstruct all of that infrastructure and piping sized appropriately. We've done a good bit of investigation on the sizing and the way that those pipes are installed currently. And so we're resizing those pipes and putting a completely new system all the way from Porter Street all the way down to Phillips Street. And includes at the bottom of that some stormwater detention that collects the portion of the stormwater that's generated on our site. And those both feed currently underneath Phillips Street into the creek of the adjacent properties across the Phillips Street intersection. And so that water will continue to do that in the same manner it is, but we will have fixed the sizing issues of the underground water piping that is collecting all of that water from off-site of your property and introduce it into the stream in the same fashion that it is once it leaves our property. And so that should resolve the issues that we have had with stormwater and flooding at the stadium, because the pipes will be sized adequately to carry the amount of water that they're supposed to carry. As to the question regarding the fill on the stadium, that was a very early part of our presentation. We've got some fill dirt, we have some cut dirt that we're going to have on our site that we need to put somewhere. One of the early strategies for that and design solutions from our point was to put that dirt on the field, which would have raised the height of the field by about 5 feet was the estimate at the time. In our many meetings with the liaison committee, that strategy was changed, and we decided not to do that. So the new stadium will be constructed largely in the same place that it is. It will be the same elevation that it is, so it's going to stay at the same height. And we're going to relocate the dirt that we're cutting to make the building pad for the new high school building, and we're going to fill it to the north of the property on the parcel that heads its way down to Frogtown and to the Creek Loop. So that dirt that was going to go on the field to raise it 5 feet is now really going to go to the north. What that does for us is it helps eliminate some early site retaining walls to the north of the property that we thought we were going to need to construct. So we gain the benefit of not having those retaining walls. We also increase the amount of sort of flat area around the backside of the new Franklin High School, where the CTE department, there's a fire lane that goes back there. So there's a lot more open space there for us to be able to use for the greenhouse, for the ag program. We've got some parking back there for school vehicles like the band trailer and the ag tractor and those kinds of things that need parked back there, as well as some additional outdoor storage for some of the CTE programs like carpentry and the welding program as well.
And so we're not going to be causing any harm for the adjoining property owners on Phillips Street.
No, we've got to manage all the water that is flowing through our property and all the water that we generate on our property to the code requirements for those things before we introduce it into the municipal system and into the property where it's going right now. That is not to say that there isn't going to be more water that goes through there. All of that water still goes in that direction, but we are just going to be collecting it in an infrastructure system that is sized properly on our campus before we introduce it to the adjacent properties and under Phillips Street.
I know the last time we actually talked about that, someone was going to go to the property owners to discuss this.
We have had those conversations with the adjacent property owner. We've done some additional survey work out there to get the data points about the right on the other side of Phillips Street that introduces all of that stormwater into that open stream that runs through those several properties that parallel that street right there, that run down my street.
And we were nice enough to have Brad and his friend to come to our last liaison meeting at the St. Paul's, and we discussed this. It's still an issue, but they haven't been totally neglected. We talked to them at our last meeting within the last month.
So the band room is actually in the school itself, the structure.
Oh, yeah.
Originally, we were talking about having it at the stadium, but we're not, long we talked about having that down where they could. So I don't know where that idea went. And then I go back to the phases. The way that we were originally told was phase one, sports complex. If you don't do anything else, you can still have phase one. And now we're into the point of, if you do anything that's $411,000, you're committed. You're committed. There's no antics or buts about it. This $411,000 tonight will commit Macon County Board of Commissioners to build $137 million respectively high school. And it all comes right back to it. And I'll go back to the Highlands project. The last word that I got was $5.5 million. We have $900,000 in an account for the repair renovation. Was going to bring that project down to $4.5 million. Now we're at $9 million. I mean, I can't, without seeing and understanding where all these numbers come from, how would anybody vote to move forward with this? I mean, I know Highland School. I know Highland School very well. And these things are needed at Highland School. They have been for decades. However, that still don't warrant me to vote to spend another $3 million for a project without completely understanding and get everybody else to understand. And I appreciate the fact that we're talking about paying for this project with no financing. But at the end of the day, this is sort of scary here with a $5 million project, and it turns out it's $9 million. Well, then we've got a $120 million project with $137 million, 80% completion. I just have to understand. I mean, and in my mind, there is, and I appreciate y'all's time, and I appreciate you answering these questions, but in my mind, there is nothing that can be said here tonight to convince me to vote to move forward with a $137 million project or a $9 million project without seeing. I want to see it, just like Commissioner Young said. Let's see the meat and potatoes. Anybody have the meat and potatoes here tonight?
Emily, can you please walk us through the changes of the 2-year-old figure for the Highland School project that also did not include the middle school renovation number initially, as that was a second project that was not attached to it, and explain where the cost difference is coming from, as well as the fact that the ceiling number we're talking about is not the quote that we were looking at, that's the ceiling number.
Right, we'll be following the exact same process that we've outlined today with the Franklin High School project and the bidding of various scope packages as part of the Highlands project. This is Kevin All with Benoit Construction. They have worked with us to prepare a budget based on, and in the Highlands project, they were based on our design development drawings, which was where we were at in the stage of design, and Benoit came on board with this project. And one of the things that I think we haven't mentioned here today that's really true of both of these projects, as part of our scope of work, long before we had a CM on board for either project, we have engaged as part of our design team, a third-party cost estimator that has been looking at our drawings and preparing these budgets. So every time we've come to you with a budget update based on the phase of design that we were in at the time, that was prepared by a cost estimator. And so how that process works when we have a CM at risk on board as part of the team is that our third-party estimator prepares an estimate and the CM at risk prepares their own estimate. And then we look at those two estimates and compare them. It's like getting two bids instead of just the one from one contractor. So we did that process with both of these projects and took the estimates that were prepared by our consultant and the estimates that were prepared independently by the CM to vet those numbers and to give you the best update that we could at the time based on the phase of the process that we were in design and the amount of information available. So I think in the big picture part of things, and I'll let Kevin kind of walk us through the whole scope of what the Highlands project entails. There are things that we learn as the project evolves that change or impact the cost of things. For one example, at Highlands, we have gotten a geotech report, which we didn't have at the very beginning of the project, and it suggests that we have some soil conditions where we're going to build the new addition for the classroom building at the middle school that are less than desirable to support the structure of new construction. And so there are additional foundation structural design that we need to do to be able to support that part of the project. And so those are costs that get added to the project as we get more information and we continue to develop the details of the project. So that accounts, Hillary, for some of the costs that you're experiencing, so that over the course of 2 years, we learn a lot more about the building than we do at the very beginning. It's an evolutionary process of problem solving and getting the information that we need to be finished so that we're at a place where we're ready for construction. So that accounts for some of those costs and the variability that we've seen really with both of these projects over the course of the years. And then you layer onto that the market conditions, which Kevin and I would love to be able to predict for you. But it's kind of like your interest rate. We do the best that we can with the knowledge that we have. A lot of that is historical data and trends with what happens in the construction market and how things cost what they cost. COVID was a huge wrinkle in that, and so we're guessing along with trying to navigate what we think COVID is going to tell us about how the market works. You all experience that in your own lives with inflation and interest rates and other things as well. And so we use the best data that we have at the time, and that continues to evolve much like the details of our project. So Hillary, we can walk through, we do have some slides that Kevin can walk through with regards to how we've approached the estimating for Highlands and a deeper dive into, John, to your point, the scope of what these various areas of the work that we're proposing at the Highlands project based on the needs that we've assessed. And so we can kind of walk through some of those slides if that's helpful for you.
And I believe, Emily, the geotech alone, with the addition of the middle school renovations that was not on the Highland School project scope, is just under $1.8 million of what you're seeing as a difference, as well as that site is the only buildable site at Highland School. So there will be no further building additions because there is nowhere else currently on our land to put them at this time to be attached to the main building.
Yeah, that's fair. And in the early planning stages, we vetted a lot of different options for where to add the classrooms that we needed to meet the needs at Highlands, and that was certainly the best solution for the needs that we had at the time, without a lot more other different costs that we would incur to reroute traffic and to do some other pretty large-scale things on the site to try to accommodate classroom addition in some other location in the building. And so we certainly thought, even with the information and feedback we've got from Geotech, that it's still the best value in terms of the location on the campus where we can put this particular addition.
And if I did want to clarify, that does not automatically lock you into the balance of the project. You can choose to walk away after that point, and you would not, that is not the point of return. That point of no return would be the finalized GMP after the bids are taken. So that's not the supplemental.
And again, to kind of reiterate that, we had to have a number to say, if we move forward with spending this 411, this can be what you're looking at. No more, this is it, because like you said, we saw fluctuations, but in order to get our financing straight, to be able to properly move forward with this and plan for it financially, we had to have that seal.
Let me just say something on the other side of something. We're here talking about monies and those type of things, and what we haven't seen, what we have seen. We've already been warned that this campus is not going to provide ADA certification. It's not going to do it. We've already been warned, we'll see you in court. You're going to get yourself sued, you're going to lose $62 million, then guess what? You're going to have a tax raise in order to bail yourself out of what we got into. So there's a lot of good thoughts and things going on. If you want to go to the bathroom in this building right now, you can go downstairs, or you can go across. You can't go, you got a little place. I remember we were in here a few years ago on Veterans Day. A World War II veteran came through the door there. I was standing right there. And he said, I've had coffee this morning. Can I use the bathroom? I explained to him what the bathrooms were in this building. He said, I'll just wait. And I checked with him after this meeting, November the 11th, and he was hurting. We're better than that, people. We're better than that. And we can sit around here and figure out the monies and stuff. But I remember when we first started this thing, the $62 million wasn't in the picture. When I saw $120 million, we all felt good about it. Then you put your $62 million. I know things get inflated, but I'm just telling you, you're being watched. This campus is not safe. It is not ADA, it's not even IDEA acceptable. So you're going to get in a situation where you're going to miss this summer opportunity. And somebody's going to get hurt, especially when school starts. You young people have been here, you know what it is on the first day of school. Second, third, fourth, fifth, all like that. This place is congested. I don't want us to see us get into a situation where we lose $62 million. You have to have a tax raise, ADA, it's not even close to that. But you've already, I'm going to say we've already been warned that this is going to happen to us. And we've assured some people at the state level, we're working on this. And they've said it back to us, we hope so. I just want you, there's another picture in here besides money. It's young people. And we're talking about ADA situations too. I'm trying to get the handicapped kids from point A to point B, just like regular students. Put that in the mix of your thoughts, and you'll see this. We will be sued. We already told we were told we'd be sued. And we sat in a room and we listened to the people from the state talk to us, and they said, "You better get this fixed." That's what it was. John, were you in that room with us? Yeah. And so we can sit here reading over a few $1 million. Hey, I'm stingy too. But there comes a time when we have to accept the best thing that we got. and to deny this opportunity this summer for that program to go on, for them to do what they're going to do. John Bill, you're going to be here the first day of school starts, and you're going to be wondering, where do you go to? Where do you go to? You're going to have to supervise somewhere. We don't have this. Your teachers are going to have to supervise. When you got building a complex here, and you got nearly 190, over 100 doors in and out. I see Sheriff Hall goes back there, you better bring him in back. And because this campus is not safe. So that's all. I was here for 21 years and loved it. But it's not safe. We're not in the 21st century. We got to move into the 21st century with these buildings. And this piece here is not going to raise taxes. Hey, you got my vote. Let's get this thing squared away. And that's all I got to say. You're going to see another picture of this if we don't move on with this.
So this summer work, I feel like this is something we talked about for weeks and weeks, and really, I mean, to your point, Mr. Shields, I mean, this cost us a year. I mean, summer not where we started. I think what really this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Carol Daniels, I mean, this is moving water, moving sewer, moving power lines, all the stuff that has to be done. You can't have a school without power. So you got to move some of the power lines during summer when the kids aren't there.
Yeah,
Same with the bathroom, right?
that's correct. Mostly that number is water, sewer, and stormwater. On the campus, on the existing campus, to keep the gymnasium active. Once we start construction, we have to move to water meters, because in the current location, once we start construction, we'll be working in the area of those meters. So we met with the city. They've come out and told us where to move those meters, so we won't have to move them again during the 3 years of construction.
Well, playing devil's advocate, Mr. Sherrill, your point. We just heard this guy, say there's really not been a budget. They've just kind of been working. And I feel like, I'll sit down with anybody on this board or on the board and go over this, and I don't mind to help make those pencils over there smoke, and put them to work. But, Ms. Lord, does this need to come out of general fund balance? It's $411,000. This time, I'd like to make a motion to authorize county manager to enter into a contract with Carol Daniel for $411,644 GMP funding from general fund balance. That's my motion, I'm sorry.
Let me ask a question. Can you do one without the other?
Yes. Or as far as separate motions?
No, I said, you have LS3P.
We'll have to have LS3P also, yes. But they can be separate motions.
Right, but can they?
Those will be required to proceed throughout the summer and remain on schedule.
Okay. Can you do this piece of work this summer without LS3P?
Mr. Shields, this is a motion from Carol Daniel, and who's going to follow? We've already budgeted their money. Mr. Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, that's already in our budget.
LS3P money is in their contract, but we haven't got it in our budget. We would have to, it is in their contract for this next phase, for that 238, so we would have to authorize that from general fund balance as well, for them to move forward.
Yeah, so you guys are agreeing to the $137,624,444 cap for the high school project. Is that correct?
Yes. I don't think that's correct, Mr. Sherrill. I feel like if you'd like to engage in that, we can go through every inch of this project. And if we were to come up with a number that satisfied both boards without cutting, major issues of the school, I'll be willing to engage in that.
I mean, mean, it says here in the big bright letters, agree on total project cost.
Just to be crystal clear, my motion is to allocate Carroll Daniel to do summer work, which is time sensitive, and actually kids are out of school. So that's what I'd be happy to engage in, I mean, that to do things.
Okay, I understand, but the very first sentence of this says that they're seeking consensus of this board to agree on the total project cost, approval of LS3P fees required for summer work, $238,000, approval of $411,644 in contractor site prep, including utility relocation law and the things that we've talked about. But the very first sentence here is they're looking for a consensus of this board that we agree upon this $137 million cap for this project. And that, I mean, and that's what I said, it's $411,000. If you come in here and you start moving sewer lines and you start paving bus drop-offs and stuff like that, and you don't go forward with this project, what are you gonna do? Go back and spend another $411,000 and move everything back? I mean, I may be completely wrong by this, but this is, the very first sentence is stating what it states. So, that's my take, that's my discussion. So, you wanna, motion in a second? Discussion, we got anything?
We have a motion and a second.
Yes.
No, I didn't hear the second. No, I'm expressing my views.
Well, there's been it's called for a vote, Mr. Chairman.
The vote's gonna be on the $411,624. It's gonna be on $137,624,444,000.
Mr. Chairman, the motion on the floor is to enter into Carroll Daniel, contract with Carroll Daniel, $411,000.
It's been a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand.
So I don't think from England, what's the amount of the LS3P? As liaison to Macon County Schools, I'd like to make a motion to amend the contract with the architect in the amount of $238,081, LS3P. Money coming out of general fund balance. Second.
Any discussion? My raising your stand, Mr. Chairman.
Discussion.
For the pre-K, same scenario, except for
Sure. Do you want me to go through the overall scope of work first, or just dive into that?
Mr. Manager, Mr. Chairman, we can go back to this. So there is no motion on the floor, and will not be a motion on the floor this $137,624,444.
I think that there was not a motion needed, just a consensus. And I think, again, for our planning purposes, for what we have to do, in order to set up the financing and for them to proceed, we just wanted to give the board and put this number out there, to say that we discussed this with Carol Danny, we discussed this with Architect. This is the cap. Again, the financing assumptions we went over, the negotiations that are to happen, the bidding that's going to happen that could influence that number, we went over. All these things can serve to make that number lower. But in order for us to proceed and remain on that schedule and on that timeline to receive financing, get approval from the local government, we had to have that. We had to have that number there. So with these things being approved in the absence of anybody just saying absolutely not, we will continue to proceed with that being the cap in terms of what we have to do to set up things with the local government commission and things with the sale of the bonds.
Okay, we'll let the record reflect that I do not support this.
Should I make names or what do you make? I don't know what.
If you want to, the next action that we would need here tonight, again, we have a representative from the board with us here tonight, and he's happy to go over whatever we need to go over on the house.
Can I interject here, and I can do this, and I think I'll do this direction. I feel like these are big time adjusted questions. I mean, there were 200 people in the courtroom last month. I think a lot of them were sitting down here. With respect to their time and our time, I feel like it's being a budget work session. I think these are issues that we need to talk about, all of them. And I feel like speaking freely here, I mean, I support all of these. I just want to figure out a way to pay them. I mean, to share Mr. Sherrill's concerns there. To elaborate, Mr. Sherrill, I mean, I feel like, is there a number? I mean, if we made them up to 130 million, does that make you feel better? Is there 125 million? Is there something we can do to make, if we went through this thing and really went through it,
Mr. Young, the problem, and as we talked about earlier, I'm completely in the dark here. I'm going based on the word of a group of people and putting the taxpayers of this county on the hook for $137 million without seeing the final plan. I wish we would have known about it. We were going to have this work session a month ago, so we would have had time to hash this out. But from 2 o'clock till 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock is extremely Saturday. And it's not questioning anybody's honesty or anything like that, but I don't, just like you said, you didn't just call up the crane service company and say, just send me a crane, whatever you want to send me. Well, in essence, that's what I'm asked to do here, is just vote for it, John. This has got to go on this way. And I've heard of no final plans for any of this stuff, other than the fact that we did bring on the managers of risk here, and we approved that. But at 2 o'clock today, I hear numbers where we are, and to come in here and put the taxpayers on the hook for this. I appreciate the fact that we don't have to have a tax increase. But as he stated before, there are other things in this county that must be addressed. And if we're not careful, we're going to have to raise taxes to address those. And the East Franklin School is one of the very ones that concerns me, and the fact that we went up $20 million, and we still don't know. So, anyways, I just wish that we would have had more time than to go through this tonight. But it is you and the chairman, you guys have spent a lot of time with the school system and the architects and everybody else, and you've hashed out these things with them. But we've had no discussions other than tonight.
To be honest, I'd be more than happy to have one of these. Like I said, this is kind of boring, it's going to be entertaining here, but I would have work sessions monthly. Honestly, I really will. We're talking $70+ million budget, $60+ million budget. I feel like this is healthy, and I also feel like not homogenized boards like this. These agreements are how you come up with the best outcome. So I think all this is healthy. And I'm trying to beat a dead horse up here, but I just want to share with you how I come to this consensus. We're $137 million right now proposed for Franklin High School, $8.5 million in highlights, bring us to $146 million on total projects. $62 million grant, $20 million from the fund balance, which come from COVID-related surplus, conservative budgeting, puts Macon County on the hook for $64 million, so $64,200,000. And I feel like I used the term earlier, equitable, for making the people of Macon County to be able to have a brand new high school and have the Highlands project that cost us $64 million to taxpayers. I think that term equitable is that relevant. And so I hate to, say that. I just feel like I don't like the cost either, and I'm with you. If you want to put this corner over here and make their pencil smoke, I'll help you, John. But I feel like you can ask Emily. We've had some pretty hard conversations in those rooms. We've been meeting them.
Did a little math before I came over here. $137 million high school, 38,000 residents in Macon County. That's just a guess. $62 million grant, $20 million out of the fund balance. Leaves $55 million without interest or anything. If you divide that number by 38,000, you come up with $1,447.37 for every man, woman, and child for 38,000 people. If you have a family of 5, that's $7,236.85. Let's go knock on everybody's door and say, how many people lives in this house? And if there's 5 people, let's collect $7,236.85 from each individual, or from that family of 5. And let's just pay cash for this house. Forget about financing. But ultimately, it's $137 million. You talk about $60-some million when you add interest and stuff in. We're back at $100 million plus. And to put mom and pop out here that can't afford to pay for their medicine, and just throw it out there. And then just add 20 million, 22, 23 million to the cost. I mean, these folks need to be, I get it. I mean, our most precious gift that God gave us was our children. And we must take care of them. But we also must remember grandma and grandpa out there that's living on a fixed income that can't afford to buy their medicine and pay for their groceries with no regard to them. And I get it. I mean, I want my savings. I want to, when we do things, I want to make sure that they're right. But this project here, I don't know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just going by everybody's comments of what we need, what we're going to get. I have no idea, other than we're going to get a $60-some million debt. So I'm not arguing the fact school. A lot of my people in Highlands, let's build them a high school. Let's do it right. And let's save the people the money where we can. Highland School does need it, but like I said earlier, I mean, my wife graduated from that school, my 3 sons graduated from that school. I know all the ins and outs of that school. But that's still without knowing exactly why we have such an increase, without seeing the plans, without all this, without talking to our constituents. I'm stuck. I understand the timing and stuff, and it is best. But it's best for one category. It's not best for everybody across the board, in my mind. And so that's, I have to look out for, in my mind, what's in the best interest of the taxpayers. And a $20 million increase without legitimate plans to see all this, I just can't support it. And I don't want to not support it. It's been, as everybody says, it's much needed. These children with disabilities, they deserve the right to be able to access their school facilities. I get it, and I want them to as well. I'm not downplaying the need. But to hit me with a $137 million project unexpectedly, it's tough. It's hard.
I feel like I'm satisfied with what's been brought up. John, I don't know if we're understanding completely. The county, the people of this county are not going to be on the hook for $137 million. First thing is, that's the ceiling. Second thing is, that's not what's being financed. So if we keep repeating that, it's going to get the public thinking that we're financing $137 million, and that's not what's happening right now. It's $137 million, that's a cap. With all the calculations that's going on here tonight, as far as I'm seeing, that puts us on hook for what, 60?
Yes.
Yeah, about 65 million, right?
Under these current assumptions, we have $75,624,444 being financed. The remainder would be from fund balance appropriation.
Now, when this first got started, the initial numbers was 118 million. There was no grant. So there was an automatic assumption that we're going to finance 118 million. Okay? I understand that. But the issue here is that even though there were costs that went up, and I understand that, the more we wait, that cost is going to keep coming up. Now, we may not want to hear this, but if we took care of this problem a long time ago like we should have, we wouldn't be in this position that we're in right now. So if we keep pushing this thing back, it's only going to get worse. So the first issue is the fact that this high school should have been taken care of a long time ago. When? The moment we find out that this place was an ADA compliant. Now, if I understand this correctly, we found out that this place was not ADA compliant back in the 90s, is that correct? Yep. So is that 30 years we sat on this? If we sat on something for 30 years, how long can you discuss something before we come up with a solution and say, let's move forward? And the second part, again, is that we're not financing $137 million. We're financing the $65 million, which is well below the $118 million that we started with to begin with. So I think we cannot mislead people into making them think that we're financing an amount that's really not what's happening. And I understand like we have heartburn in this, but what I'm saying is we're dragging this thing out. And again, we dragged this out for 30 years. And the reason why we're in this position is because we sat on this thing for 30 years. We knew 30 years ago that this wasn't right for these kids. What happened in a 30-year period of time? Why was this not taken care of a long time ago? Why was this taken care of a decade ago? I still don't get an answer anytime I ask that question. We knew about this 30 years ago. It doesn't make sense to be sitting around talking about something for 30 years and still not come up with a solution. Now, when a solution finally comes up, there's still pushback. So at what point are we ever going to move forward with this? For me, that doesn't make sense. And I'm only explaining this because I just want to make myself clear. I'm just want to be clear with everyone realizing what my position is on this. I'm not trying to make a crazy, hasty decision with taxpaying dollars. These kids matter. I work with these kids every day. I spend every day of my life cleaning up a mess that other people have left behind with these kids all day long. This is not a good situation for any of these kids. So if we're moving forward, I'm sorry, but I'm never going to agree with anybody that's going to oppose this, because again, I'm going to keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. We knew this for 30 years, and we sat on this thing. And for 30 years, who's been suffering for this? You and I? No, these kids have been. So I don't find that that's right at all for us to keep kicking that can down the road. And that's just my personal opinion on this. And again, just to be clear, what's being financed here is not 137 million. I think enough has been said tonight for everyone to grasp and understand that what's being going to be financed if we move forward with this, and I should say when we move forward with this, it's going to be about 65 million. Am I correct? There's it?
Yep, 75 million.
75?
624, yes, sir.
So that's just my stance, and that's where I stand on this.
Commissioner Randall. I get it. If they would have came to us a month ago and at least let us digest this, had time to talk about it, ask questions and everything. Had this come in, we were talking about 118 million. Let's go in reverse. What if it would have come to 100 million? We probably wouldn't be having this discussion. But I think it's a fair question to ask why and how for the taxpayers of this county. Did we just add $19 million to this cost? And I don't have those answers. I have not seen those plans. And so therefore, again, the estimate is over. So I think we should be able to ask those questions, get the answers, and be able to present it and move forward. I don't want to solve this thing, but I do want to have accurate information. And I do want to be able to tell the people that I get the $65 million, but any way you look at it, any way you dissect or whatever, it's still taxpayer dollars. That $20 million that's coming out of the fund balance belongs to Macon County taxpayers. That has been collected over the years, so that
How long are we going to sit on this money and not move forward with these needed projects?
Well, my biggest thing, my whole thing here is this all came to us at 2 o'clock today with no information and to be expected to spend and represent the taxpayers of this county. You should have all the answers. And so, and I'm not resisting the new high school.
You may say that you're not resisting it, but I need you to understand that you're coming across a lot like you are.
I just want I'm a numbers guy. Our job is to finance these projects. And so, we must have all the answers, and we must know why did it went up, why did, I don't know. I mean, it's just like phase one. I didn't even know that we had got out of phase one, phase two, and phase three, just until Ms. Cotton just told us.
Just to clarify my position and stance, hopefully I'm very clear with everyone understanding how my position is on this. That's the reason why I'm going in this direction. I just want to be clear with that, okay?
Now, where are we?
The only other action pertaining to these capital projects that is time sensitive, again, much like this project, everything we've discussed, the CIP, the affordability analysis includes the new estimate at 8.5 for the Highlands project. Moving forward with that, we will be approving tonight of LS3P fees required for the summer work again. This amendment was part of the original contract and is contemplating us to approve to enter into the next step. If we approve this here tonight, then next month we will have Noy
coming to us for summer work that is needed there. Regular part of these items by the end will have a current cost. If you'd like to sure explain that, but first and foremost, tonight, the only action would be for the board to, again, acknowledge the CIP planning, revolve around this 8.5, and for us to proceed onward, we need to authorize the 16,463 tonight for LS3D to complete the required summer work as per their contract.
So, like you mentioned, I'm Kevin Hall, project manager with Illinois Construction. Seems like it'd be beneficial just to run quickly through the addition, renovation, scope of work. I'll keep it high level, trying to get too into the weeds, and then I can talk through what we need to release early to make sure we hit our dates, and with the goal of finishing all the critical areas before the end of summer of 2025. So break down per area. We've got 4 separate areas between middle school, addition and renovations. That's a 4,000 square foot addition. Renovation of the 2 levels of the existing space, mainly mechanical, flooring, some ceiling work, and a re-roof situation. You got area B, the labs and office renovation. Area C, the media center, and area D, the pre-K classrooms. We'll go over in detail on those. So again, addition of a 2-story, 4,000 square foot classroom building, 40 classrooms, a couple office spaces, storage space. We do have new site work, hardscapes in the courtyard there. We'll have a new connection canopy between the middle school building and the rest of the building. There are some utility upgrades, so basically just switching the fuel source for the propane, for the boilers from number 2 oil to propane. Removal of that existing fuel tank will help facilitate the construction of the additions actually located directly below. And then renovating this boilers for the classrooms, again, that's mainly mechanical flooring, the ceiling work. Area B, the labs and office space, renovate the existing labs, basically a finish refresh, some new mechanical. Renovate the existing offices. I think that's a computer classroom right now, but we're going to create an office pod in there. And then the tech lab, we're going to raise the flooring in there, redo some of the mechanical. I think there were some concerns with egress and dead end corridors, and there's the main purpose behind that work for the tech lab. Area C Media Center is pretty much a full gutted renovation. There's also an alternate for a freestanding canopy outdoor classroom, and then some millwork upgrades in that media center. Pre-K classroom, we're going to add some restrooms in each classroom, some new millwork, finish upgrades, flooring, and ceiling work. Just some high-level costs. Area A, we're looking at about $5.4 million. Area B, the labs and office renovations. $717,000. Area C, the media center, $1.32 million. Area D, the pre-K classrooms, $335,997. And then a couple of the areas that we were looking at for some early release work. Main concern is the boiler burner retrofit. That is really the first and foremost thing that we need to look at getting released. That is work that will need to happen early. We plan to have, as Gary mentioned, plan to have our pricing together for that to be presented to the board, I believe, next meeting, the second Tuesday of next month, right there. So we're working on getting that together. That will need to be released, and we need to get our trades under contract around the 17th of June to allow for procurement and installation of that prior to the end of September when the colder weather comes. Next critical step would be structural steel, and boiler burner retrofit can be considered GMP number 1. That would be similar to the summer work at Franklin High School. That would be all that you'd be locked in for. I do not see that being more than $100,000. We were asked to get pricing last week. It was a little difficult with the looming holiday. A lot of people out on vacation, but we were working to get that finalized. Next critical package is the structural steel. This is really just a procurement item. This will allow work to start in November of this year, which in turn gets that area completed ahead of some of the more critical summer work, being the pre-K classrooms, media center, and the lab space renovations. That package is estimated at $189,000 currently. That's based on a DD estimate. We're waiting for the next set of documents, the 100% set, to come out. June 7th, I think, is what we're targeting now. That package we are looking to release by the end of August. So I guess we'll target maybe the second, that meeting in August to bring it before the board for their review. The concrete package and the deep foundations, again, those are also based on the DD drawings and design. Those, I believe that we can bid out with the rest of the project, the rest of the packages. But I put those on there because it will be critical to hit the notice to proceed, the release of that work by September 20th, which is basically the same time frame as releasing the rest of the work. If we were to miss that date, it could potentially push the project schedule back. But I just want to put those up there just to keep it in everybody's mind and know that September 19th date that we were targeting for outgoing to proceed for the full package, the full construction package, Schoolboard and contract. Those will rely heavily on that date. And that's just the bureau. Any questions?
Yeah, how much fluff you've got in there? Without seeing the plans, I mean, are there things in those plans that somebody just created, or is that just enough needs for the school needs? I mean, there's got to be some reason behind this increasing other than what, I'm in the dark again with this, with no information whatsoever. This is the first time I've seen any of these slides, any discussion, anything.
And Mr. Sherrill, you've mentioned that several times, that this is the first time you've seen this. I invited you when I presented this at Highland School about 2 months ago. I've offered to take you through plans. You've had access to LS3P. You hired LS3P. You could have made every effort, which you do, gathering all of your numbers to see these plans. They are available to you. I hope tonight, as my colleague on the commission for Highlands, that you will consider this, and I hope that you will support this along with me.
Well, Hillary, I know I've slept since then, but I never remember such a call from you. I have walked through Highland School. I know more about Highland School than most people know about Highland School. And when we approved funding for this, I did make the motion for LS3P. And I also remember specifically $5.5 million. If they would have said $8.5 million then, we may have had a different conversation about this. But my whole drawback to this is we are not on unlimited dollars. And I do support Highland School 100,000%, as well as every school that I have involvement with. And I'm one of the biggest supporters of the youth that you've ever laid your eyes on. But I will not just write a blank check to anyone that cannot explain to me why we are going to spend that kind of money.
I think that's what we're doing here. I've already mentioned to you, we have $800,000 in geotech. We have another almost $1 million. That was a separate project that got lumped into this project. Emily is here. She can add anything else that is attached to this, and we can get your questions answered. But nobody is putting fluff into this project that doesn't need to be there. It has been vetted. It has gone through the liaison committee. It has gone through multiple strategic thinking sessions, both with the administration, with the faculty, with those who have input into the needs of this. And I've been in every single meeting for 5 years on this, and I can promise you, there's nothing in here that doesn't need to be in here or that is exaggerated in any way, shape, or form. Nobody's trying to pass something tonight that we can't sit here and analyze with Emily and the other people that put these numbers together so that you can feel satisfied on it. But if we hadn't had to wait another year on this because our funding was pulled on the architects, when you start adding costs, when you delay these things, that's part of it. And I'm not trying to be defensive of it, but one thing I will say is I can confidently present to you this plan, these numbers, and say that it fulfills the scope that you and I have discussed and that you put forward before. And due to timing and the delay of time, that's where we're at now. And you were in the room with over 100 Highlands constituents. You said tonight, you need to find out from your constituents, what do they want? You know what they want. Let's get this done tonight.
Well, Miss Hillary, there are a lot more people in Highlands, North Carolina than 100, number one. But I wish I had that luxury of knowing all the ins and outs of this. We probably wouldn't be questioning it. I haven't sat through
You have
these.
the time to go look at these plans that are accessible to you.
Let's get back on the page.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this will be the same, Highlands is my district, and this is going to be the same exact movement until I can put and connect the dots. I'm not gonna spend $3 million of taxpayers' money without specific information to where I can connect the dots to that school.
And we respect your opinion and idea of that. Let's move on. Let me say one thing to Ms. Kite and the other people over there. I'm speaking for myself, and I gotta get away from the personal stuff. One thing, when you get in this arena, you have to accept people in a blind faith in what they do. I have no idea the quality. I just trust LS3P. I trust Vanoy. I trust Carol Daniels. I don't know what they do. I just trust them. And they did, when I reviewed their information was credible. It was great. I think we hired the people to move this project forward. And Gary Shields will never doubt what your abilities are, because he definitely doesn't know what you're talking about. I just have to trust you. And so, where are we here, Josh, with the Highlands?
Well, I kind of want to talk to Mr. Sherrill if we can. I know Highlands is your district, and I know it's being needed. We meet again in 2 weeks. Would it be prudent to, we need $16,000 a day, it looks like. That's pretty much the only fruit of an $8 million job, and then you can take some time and really report back to us in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's all I'm asking for tonight, is some time.
Is that adequate? Is that kind of common ground? $16,000 on whether it's 5 or 8 million, really that number's, I don't see it changing a lot. And then 2 weeks. Is that something you'd be willing to do?
Well, see, there again, the very first sentence, agreed on the total project cost.
I know the gentleman over here said he had 4 to 6 weeks to plan on it, he stood up.
Okay, so we've got time on
Right.
this to,
But you're still waiting on finished plans, you said.
Right, yeah, we're just at the PD level estimate, we're working through a few.
Is that okay, what I'm proposing here?
For Vanoy, yes.
I say, I'm good with that. All I'm asking is time, let me.
This time, I'd like to make a motion to enter into a contract agreement with LS3P for fees required for summer work in the amount of $16,463 coming from general fund balance.
Motion, Mr. Chair, I can't hear.
Mr. Dickon, the motion is to have the county manager enter into contract negotiations, or I'm sorry, a contract agreement with LS3P for summer work in the amount of $16,463.
Just one second.
And then we'll report back 2 weeks.
And Emily, that covers, would you explain?
Sure. That represents roughly 5% of the total negotiated fee that we went into contract with for the Highlands Pre-K project. And that 5% is for our bidding and procurement phase of the project. So we're completing our construction documents and issuing those to Vanoy to begin bidding the project on June 7th. And so we would enter into the procurement phase upon issuance of those drawings, and that covers our costs and expense in helping Vanoy to facilitate not only the summer work early packages that you see on the screen, but the remainder of the GMP bidding that will occur before early August.
Any more discussion?
No, one thing, I'm gonna back up just a little bit. I wish this would have been an option for the Franklin High School. That's all I was asking for tonight. Give me time, let me digest this. And so anyways, but I appreciate it.
And I guess out of respect for what you were saying there, we've run out of time. Whatever causes, we run out of time. And when you run out of time, the kids are going to suffer on the other end. The faculty, all the congestion is going to happen the first day of school. And that needs to not happen. And I think we're in a position now to put this piece in play for Franklin High School so that it could be less congestion. It won't be 100%, it'll be less, be more safe. Any further, all of the vote? All opposed? I say again, we're on down.
Mr. Shields, if the board would like to discuss any of the other capital projects on the list, that is the only one that required action tonight. We have satisfied that. Other than that, if we would like, I know we mentioned everything's covered. We move forward with CIP, and I have wastewater treatment plants in there. Middle school track funding's been approved. Middle school water room's been completed. So that leaves the Highland soccer field, which we've received the geotech exploration report on. We could either discuss that. I think the chairman, Mr. Breedlove, said that Mr. Gibbs will be coming at a later date with that.
Actually, he has information now, Mr. Rowland, if y'all would like to hear where we're at. Yeah. We actually have some information we feel like would be important for y'all to know, to connect with. So if y'all's indulgent, if you don't mind, I'd like for Mr. Gibbs to come up and pass on the information he has to you at this point in time.
That's fine.
The geotech report showed that,
Speaking of this,
I use my principal voice. I used to use my principal voice in here. The geotech report showed that at certain depths there was swamp and pond muck that was originally there. People that had been Highlands a long time ago used to go frog digging up there in that area. So when a soccer field was decided to be put up there was a drainage system put into it on top of the swamp and pond muck. And then fill was put on top of that, and then grass on top of that. As you would expect in any drainage system that was put on top of pond and swamp muck, it will eventually lose its efficiency, which is where we're at now, because that drainage system has lost its efficiency through
the ingress of the pond and swamp muck into it. So now the water just sits on top of that muck and gets wicked up by the grass. The gentleman, the geotech geologist who did the report, said there are two solutions in his opinion. One is to take out all the muck from the pond and swamp, relocate it, refill it with aggregate, and then soil, sand, and grass on top of that. Or he said that he could design a drainage system that will work, just like the drainage system that's there, but it eventually over time will lose its efficiency. Just like the drainage system that's there, because Mother Nature with that pond and swamp muck will eventually take over that drainage also.
So the other option that they spoke about, unfortunately.
Was removing all of it.
And that came, the recommendations came from a geologist or?
Yeah, from a geologist who did the geotech, did the borings and the study and the report.
Can you stand for that?
Yes.
Mr. DeVille, that did hit Swampy Bottom's name by no reason, right?
Give me 10 seconds. 20 years ago or so, there was consideration of a project to put in an outdoor classroom joining that property. I know Mr. Henning was in that meeting. And I remember Board Chairman Edwards discussing maybe there's like 100 spring heads there. And another thing to remember is that that property is abuts a blue line stream. And so there might be other environmental considerations that you might have to take into account, given the fact that that property abuts a blue line stream.
There are 4 streets coming off the school. And actually, the drainage ditch there is higher than the field itself. So it's allowing water to, I mean, even though it's a swamp, I mean, that's where the softball field used to be.
Right.
So, even though it's a swamp, there is a lot of water coming off the Satula. Honestly, until that water is, I just don't know how you would ever. And actually, one of the biggest problems with this is at Highland School in the elementary wing, there are 4 tiles that's continuously popping up because of the moisture that's coming underneath that building. So,
Mr. Chairman, if the board would like to continue discussing the soccer field, we certainly can. We can discuss any other recommendations for fiscal year 25 budget pertaining to the school system. We can set a date for another work session. Discuss budget. It's completely at the pleasure of both boards.
I hope the next time we come, we have some light. I can see this.
Follow up on what Mr. Rowland just said, Mr. Shields. We did submit, I think, for consideration, a comprehensive listing of our capital needs requests. Correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, we did send that to y'all, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I think it's there for the commissioners to review. You can look at it if you wish. We're more than willing, this board would be more than willing then to have a meeting prior to y'all meeting if you'd like to go over those and in any shape and answer any questions you might have. But I do know we have passed that list on for y'all's consideration.
Just want to make sure that LS3P, Carol Daniels, do you people have any questions to us? Is it clear as mud? Then
So the question was earlier about the East Franklin School, and I saw that on the capital request project. And the concern is, I mean, the number we're using is $35 million.
know that any of us are in a position to put a number in terms of replacing that school at this point in time. And I think you're faced with the same consideration you had with the high school. We put it back on the same site. We look to try to find another site for it. There are inherent problems with the current site. I do notice some property around it that might be, we might look at to enlarge it to do those things. To be honest with you, I'm not about to put a figure on that just because what person died. I don't think anyone is prepared to actually do that.
What about the time frame? Are we gonna make it 5 years complete Franklin School, or is that just a $1 million question?
That's a $1 million question. It has issues, I'm not going to go into great detail concerning sewer issues, drainage issues, all those other things. That's why we put that figure on there. And it's something that we're going to have to, y'all and the two boards have to work together to consider very, very closely, because there are inherent problems with that building that need to be discussed. Yes.
Just take it a little farther. Tracy, is it sewer, water, fundamental issue there? Is it structural? Just sewer?
That building was built in 1952, the same as this building. So we did a building there just as much as we do here. But this is taking care of those 1,200 kids, where that's taking care of 300. So I think that's where we're at with this, and the boards have changed numerous times since RJ and South Macon was built. But if you go back in the minutes and look at that from several years ago, it was agreed upon by that board at that time to build 4 elementary schools, north, south, east, and west. East Franklin got Coliseum brought into it, and we still haven't done that. So I agree with John about needing that school, yes. But will it last 5 years? Yes. Do I have to keep going over there and cleaning out sewer lines and making repairs? Yes. But I've got 13 buildings on this campus that I'm doing that 3 days ago. And for your, I want you to come out of the shop, because I've got 700 pages of documents that's yours. It's there that nobody's ever brought to you.
Board Chairman, anything else you need to bring?
We do have, and what we'll do is, I don't know, we're quite ready based on some other issues. Mr. Henning has prepared an MOU for y'all's consideration. We'll get copies to y'all of that concerning the projects that we may be entering. The MOU is both for our Franklin High School, our Highlands, and the Hayward wastewater. I will let him, if y'all don't mind, he can explain, and then I think we'll get those copies of that MOU to y'all for y'all review, so that you might be willing to look at it, I think your June 11th meeting. So, Mr. Henry, if you would please.
I'm happy to, Mr. Chairman, and I don't know if I have a principal voice, but I'll try. So it is just, it's a facility of these sort of intergovernmental operations to have an agreement, put down on paper what we expect, who's doing what. We have traditionally done, in fact, the ones that I've prepared for the 2 mini projects we talked about tonight, the high school and the Highland School projects, were based directly on a Nantahala, the Nantahala Tuesday project that we did many years ago, 2010, 11, somewhere in there. It's a form of a document that Chester Jones and I would use, right now, his predecessor worked through, and it worked to facilitate work with them. So, and by the same token, the other 2, and Chairman Breedlove mentioned, the middle school project and Hilo. I think, and this is speaking some from maybe from my own ignorance of them, but with the middle school project, I think that's being operated through the school system's capital funding you all provide. I think we want to have just what I sense from my board anyway is want to have an understanding of, and is property that you all hold title to at the moment for the financing for the project that we just finished. It's also of a size that they don't have the capital funding to cover, and need some idea of taking some votes and move forward and all good faith, I know. But it's just an attempt to kind of capture what their understanding is about how that's going to be funded. And with the
wastewater, have a little bit more history in that one, having worked on and got to the phase of actual proposal in a design build delivery method with Mr. Gibbs. There's, at least I think in our minds, a bit of examinations that needs to be done about how exactly that's going to work. And so it's known and appreciated that the county has made efforts to find the additional property there, to hopefully host and facilitate those improvements. We think we just are seeking to have some understanding down on paper in front of all of us about how that's going to work out as we explore what the actual project is going to entail. So, those are going to be forthcoming, and we'll have it soon.
Just curious, why now?
Why now?
We're trying all kinds of projects and stuff on purpose. Just curious, and good question.
So, honestly, it's if I could speak to the positive nature of Chester Jones, he is as detail-oriented person as you could ever want to be. So when a project got mentioned, I turn around and find a completed MOU. So I think it's been our practice in the past. It's the practice of my firm represents 20 school systems in Western North Carolina. It is, I think, by far and away the widespread practice to have an interlocal governmental sort of agreement about how we're going to handle projects. It's been a feeling of mine not to have had drafts to you before, and that's what I've mentioned that to my board. Yeah, so I think it's the best practice. It's the short answer.
And Mr. Shields, if I could, one more thing. At our last meeting, Board of Education, we authorized our superintendent to compose a letter that was sent to both Senator Corbin and to Representative Gillespie, requesting that they take into consideration and support public school funding. I know there's a lot of debate going on in the legislature now about the very fact. So what we probably would like to do is we'll get that letter that we composed, and hopefully we'll get that to Mr. Rowland. We didn't already have a copy, and we would ask that y'all look at that letter and hopefully join with us in terms of supporting that letter, standing up for the funding for public education. So we'll get that to you in time. You can have it, everybody can review it prior to, I think, your meeting on the 11th. Okay. I think board members, am I missing anything? Is there anything else?
Anything else, Mr. Reagan?
I'm sorry?
Anything else from the board?
Don't think so this time. So I'm going to take, unless y'all have anything else, I'm going to take a vote that we adjourn.
Mr. Chair. Okay, what's going on?
Nothing yet. Oh, did you adjourn? Mr.
Not yet, that's what I'm saying. If you have any questions, we're going to do something, Mr. Chairman. Any other questions, gentlemen? All right, hearing none, I know y'all had a continuation. Did I understand right, Mr. Shields? I don't know if you want to formally adjourn, whatever procedure you need to follow.
It's up to me, we will adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, should we not set a budget work session before our next, commission meeting, June 14th? 11th. We had a couple of weeks, and I think we need to, have at least one work session before, June 11th.
Sure, if I can ask a question, is that a work session between the two boards or a work session for y'all to? Yeah, all right, just want to make sure.
Let's just don't have here. You call it.
We need to recess. Look at the calendar. So could we, so we could have a June 4th.
June 4th?
June
What is
4th,
it?
that's Tuesday. So we can recess this meeting until June 4th, 6 p.m. at the boardroom of Macon County Courthouse.
Yeah.
June the fourth, six o'clock.
I make a motion.
Recess to, 5 West Main Street, Macon County Courthouse, Commissioner Court.
I'll second that.
6 p.m.
Mr. Rowland, can I ask Benoit a quick question, Mr. Shields? The question I have is about their schedule for June. He mentioned that they would need a vote in June for the dollar amounts that he needs confirmed for the Highland School project. Are you anticipating having those ready before the June 11th Commissioners meeting, and that vote will take place then, or is that?
Yes, yeah, I plan to have it ready the week before, and I'll do my best to have it ready before your budget meeting on the 4th, is what I'm going to target.
Okay, and no further action is needed from the school board, as we've already made our motions and approved, correct? Based on the document presented tonight? Okay, just confirming. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second, got discussion. Vote.
All right, part of the Macon County Board of Education, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to we adjourn. Do I hear a second? I have a motion second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I make a motion.
So moved.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you all for watching. I apologize for the bad audio, but not everyone was speaking to the microphone. Thank you very much.